1, 2, 3.
Hello and welcome to X-Rated, the X-Men animated review show. It's 2 X-Men United review from 2003.
Yeah.
Starring Patrick Stewart, Ian McKellen, Hugh Jackman, Rebecca Romijn, Famke Janssen, Halle Berry, James Marsden. Oh, this is the same cast from the last one. Oh, well, it's basically the same.
No, there's new people.
Bruce Davison and Ed Allen Cumming.
Oh, yeah, Brian Cox. You didn't mention him.
Oh, and Brian Cox, yeah. Don't worry about that little listy I had. That was
Sean Ashmore. He's new. Kelly Hu.
Yeah, but
Aaron Stanford.
Because this is a Bryan Singer movie. They could have been any character and played by anybody.
You only say that because it's X-Men.
No, half these characters are silent. I agree. Like
Dave knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah, but
take off your rose-colored Coke bottle.
It's not about that. I was thinking about that because that was one of your biggest complaints about the last movie, and it's kind of like if there's going to be a nameless henchman that someone's going to fight because they don't know there's going to be a third movie, so they're trying to put in things related to X-Men in it. Oh, they knew. Okay, they knew.
They knew.
Why not make it Lady Deathstrike? Like just because you're not going to get the whole story doesn't mean like they're trying.
Lady Deathstrike in name only.
That's
not
true.
My Lady Deathstrike.
Oh, okay.
Even in name only, I don't even think in name.
No, they don't call her Lady Deathstrike in it at all.
Like,
do they not?
No, I don't. I never heard the word Deathstrike. They only call her Rico.
Fellow who just walked away. Oh, he's back. Is our guest David Cutler, Marvel Comics
Wolverine
extraordinaire. There's Lady Deathstrike.
Well, that is a superior Deathstrike. I'm not fooling you wrong, but movies are only 2 hours roughly. You can't have a 6-hour explanation as to who every character is and where they came from.
Costume would have taken up an extra half an hour.
That costume might be semi-problematic in a modern society.
How else would you know she has metal dealies on her boobs if she didn't have them exposed?
Yeah, how'd you know?
Huh? That's important character.
All that black leather.
No, you'd be mad you had metal dealies on your boobs.
Yeah,
like every other movie franchise.
Main motivation.
The guys are wearing black leather. The bad guys aren't wearing black leather. Or if the bad guys are wearing black leather, the good guys aren't wearing black leather. In this, everybody just wears black leather. Everybody looks the same. It's so
not really. I mean, they're militaries, most of them. And Magneto has black leather too. Magneto has a cool outfit. You said Magneto's dressed like a Nazi?
Yeah, Magneto wouldn't wear that. That's really Nazi-ish.
Yeah, the long roby kind of stuff.
The like high collar and the militariness of it.
That scene is pretty great. Just look how smarmy he looks.
Okay, we'll get into it. I really like this movie, I should say, going into it. But there are little things where I'm like, what were they thinking? But anyway.
Yeah, I agree. Nothing's perfect in the world, but this is definitely the apex of X-Men movies to me. They've never made a better one than this one. I mean, First Class is pretty good, I guess. But I don't know if it's better.
I liked First Class, but it's got problems.
Yeah, they all do.
Logan is a better movie, but it's huge.
Fair enough. Yes, as a movie, Logan is, but it's not an X-Men movie. It's a Logan.
I don't even accept Logan as being in continuity because it's just too depressing a place to end.
Well, no, there's a little hope. Some mutants got to Canada.
No. People were always like, mutants are dangerous, and Professor X is like, no, we ain't. And it turns out he's the most dangerous.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah,
like by a country mile, he should have been killed coming out of the womb. Boom, you're done.
Because they're like, well, especially in this one when they're like, well, with a mere thought in this machine he built, he could wipe out all humans or all mutants with not a lot of coaxing, like a few drugs.
Anyway, we'll get into it.
Yeah, right.
We'll get into it.
We didn't say our fancy names. I'm your host, Davstrike, and my co-host, President McAndre.
Thank you.
And our guest, have you tried not being a David?
I was going to be, you should have killed David when you had the chance, but it was too long.
I did like that line a lot, actually. That was a great line. Although I find it funny that he kind of waited for dramatic effect to finally reveal that. Like he could have said that something's up way earlier.
Like, oh yeah, something's up, Charles.
Yeah, but it could have been part of his programming.
that line is usually like, you should have killed me when you had the chance because like I'm here to fuck you, basically. It's usually the line. Not you should have killed me when you had the chance because you should have known that a guy would use psychic juice to get all your secrets out of me. Like, obviously.
Well, that's a very specific example, but perhaps you could have assumed that he would have, What I have to.
You didn't switch your opening theme to be the amazing, memorable X-Men orchestrated movie theme?
Well, I like this better.
Yeah, I mean, obviously. I remember when the first movie...
They're doing that.
What do you think they're doing up there?
What are they doing up there? Yeah, no, I was thinking that watching the intro to this. I was at the gym and I was like, I got to start watching this thing today. So I put it on when I was doing cardio. And when I was doing the whole like into the stuff and going through, I guess, Cerebro, the music was kind of swelling. And I was like, oh, yeah, it's funny because there are songs that have themes. Like X-Men has a theme. It's just not one that really sticks in my head. Yeah. It just doesn't stick in my head a lot, like not as much as the cartoon theme. Or others.
When the first movie was coming out,
embraced it.
I was like 15 or 16 in the lead up. I don't remember, but it was like the early days of the internet being like, rumor mill central and stuff. You could get like real like information faster than you could like even a couple years previous. Like even if you weren't that deep into the reads. And I remember whoever the guy was who did the score for the first film. An audio interview where he was like going through his thought process for the main theme, and he's like, "This is the part kids will play when they're playing with the action figures in the box. They'll be like, da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da." And I was like, "No, no kid is going to remember that. It's not a good theme."
Yeah, there are some that kind
of the good X-Men theme and like stop there.
Yeah, it does kind of sound a little bit like that, So that I'm assuming that was somewhat of an inspiration. But there are some scores like
what you doing up there, Dave?
Yeah, Dave, what are you doing up there in Toronto?
I don't know how to answer that question. How do I answer that question?
It's just like catching up. What are you doing? How's life?
I got back I visited home for the holidays and
how was sunny in Newfoundland?
It was actually sunny. I only had to shovel the back walk, the walk in the back deck once, which is an all-time record. I always go home for 3 weeks, and like to not only have to that's global warming, man. We're in dire straits.
Not looking good.
You weren't worried about it until you went home and only had to shovel the walk once. That was the line that told you
it was striking to only shovel it once.
Yeah, it's been like I may have shoveled my driveway. I have a house, but they may have shoveled the driveway like twice last year. If you wait like a day or two, it usually just gets up to pluses and then melts.
Well, yeah, so I did that.
A chance and it doesn't.
And now I'm sitting here talking to you, jokers.
Yeah, that's an accurate description of us.
Yeah,
midnight tokers.
You wait till midnight, Davan? That's surprising. It's legal. Yeah. Go smoke outside. Take a break.
Midnight. I'm in bed by midnight.
What you do? I don't think you sleep. I just think you do podcasts and then send me text to remind me to do stuff for you. That's your life.
You.
That's true. Well, happy to have you back on, Dave.
See you guys.
We've been following your career closely. I did finally get a chance with I did because of you. Actually, I got the Marvel Unlimited app, and I must say I love it. I've been reading
because of you.
I've been reading.
Went and got the Marvel Unlimited app.
I went and read it's just if any story that's gone by that I missed, instead of buying like 9 trades to catch up, I can just I'm reading. I'm reading Al Ewing's Immortal Hulk story right now, and I'm like, this is fun. Like, I'm glad I got a chance to read it instead of buying. And I read the Storm Iron Man. I think I messaged you after I read it. It was beautiful. I loved it. Art was
cool. Ewing's one of the best guys going right now.
Oh yeah,
yeah. That Hulk story is quite. It's gotten to like I'm at the point now where it's like all around the Zemnu Hulk and all that sort of stuff. So it's getting a little long in the tooth. I'm hoping they're sliding back into the horror stuff, and I'm really digging it.
I'm not the biggest Zemnu fan.
Well, I like what they did with him, like the
look here. It's I don't know.
Well, the take on him, like the memories of like watching a kid show with him being the Hulk you remember, like that sort of Mandela effect thing is actually a very interesting way of doing that. I thought that was cool. I really dug that. And all the different Hulks in different forms appearing is fun. So yeah, I'm really digging it. It's super good.
You should read his X-Men Red. I don't know if you're like keeping up with the Krakoan age, which is now over, of X-Men. But,
yes.
You might get a little lost in the reads if you haven't, but his X-Men Red is like, it's crazy good. It's oh yeah.
I did read like the Powers of X and whatever ones, those trades, but I found them still a little hard to follow because there's a lot of stuff I missed before, I'm sure, leading up to it.
Jumps around.
It does jump around a lot. They're like all of a sudden they're in space, and then Apocalypse is over here with kids in a different universe. And
how did you read it? Did you read like all of Powers of X and then all of House of X or whatever?
Yeah.
Did you like jump between the two?
Well, I read them both linearly because that's what it seemed like it should have been. But the I don't think talking to you now makes you realize that I should have jumped back and forth.
Yeah, it makes more sense that way. But a lot of it was supposed to be, I think, like this was supposed to make sense later, and plans changed. Yeah. So like there were characters we never saw again. Yeah.
Yep. So it's like
Rasputin came back at least.
It's like the modern Clone Saga. They're like, we're going to leave a lot of breadcrumbs that are not going to get picked up.
It's better than the clones.
You sacrilege, sir. I will slap you in the face. That is. I know. I'm kidding. That is a testimony to '90s exaltance. Like that. There you go. Oh yeah, that's sweet.
Spider Ben Carnage right here.
I have to say, I almost considered canceling doing this because I'm so into the Spider-Man 2 game that I had to pry myself away from it to come to this. It's so good. If you love the first one, you'll love this one.
I finished it.
Oh, did you? I'm about
no spoilers.
That's fine. I'm around. Where am I at in the story? Just around I do all the side missions, so I just finished the chameleon one.
Oh,
so I'm plugging along.
Everybody brings this up, but did you get to like? Are you in the black suit?
Yes.
And did you do the whole like big fight at Craven's place or whatever?
The one with the like at the zoo.
Maybe like where the guy comes out in the bear costume.
Oh yeah.
I didn't know there were bears in these woods. So
yeah, I got something to tell you. I'm fresh out of honey.
Fresh out of honey.
I wonder if that was a grizzly reference or just a guy in a bear suit. That was at EMF when you were trying to make the serum to cure lizard. He comes out.
Is that a Christmas tree decoration?
It's just as a reason why you're just swinging the crotch towards the camera as much as possible.
This is spider crotch.
It's a Homer at Cirque du Soleil.
That's an action figure.
The guy's gyrating in his face.
No, that's from the cartoon that was just before Marvel got it, right?
Yeah, Spectacular Spider-Man.
Yeah, I think that is one of the best Spider-Man cartoons ever.
Oh,
it was fantastic.
It is the best Spider-Man cartoon.
Yeah, it was so good. I was so sad when it ended just because of that of Disney buying Marvel, but it was so good. Yeah. Anyway, we talk about X-Men.
Let's talk about
X2. Let's talk about X2. Why don't we?
Yeah. Okay.
Take her away, André.
All right. Well, we're gonna try to keep this a little more general than we normally go into it because these are long ass movies. So first, we get the intro. This time slightly different, but also done by Professor X. Kind of tying into all of the themes that brought us up to this point about how humans have a really rough time sharing the planet with anybody else. Which I always find so funny because like mutants are humans with powers, like to most people apparently in this world, they're just creatures that have no rights, should be killed, wiped off the planet. You have to acknowledge that they're human.
Look outside the window. Look outside the window.
Fair enough, but my God, I guess.
Imagine if trans people had like beams coming out of their eyes, what you'd see on the news. It'd be fucking crazy.
But what rate of people, like how much, a percentage of the whole population of Earth would you say want to eliminate all trans people, like kill them, just wipe them out?
The whole population of Earth?
Yeah. What percentage would you say? Maybe I'm more optimistic about humans than you.
75%, and I feel like I'm being generous. Yeah,
what?
Man, you have to think about all the countries that are like even not as far along as we are, and like I would guess
everyone in that country would be against it.
Like 20% of Canadians would be fine with them all like getting put into an oven. Like I'm positive. I'm positive.
20%
with the slightest prodding, at least 35% of the U.S. At least 35%. Wouldn't put up a fuss. Let me say that. If Trump was like, let's take these mutant trans people and
let's do a listener poll. Would you kill a trans person if given the opportunity?
We got these ovens and the normal people are getting pretty cold, so I think we got a cheap source of fuel here. And they're all like, yes.
We're not doing anything wrong. We're just trying to keep trans people warm.
By lighting them on fire. All right, so we catch to a tour of the White House, in which President McKenna's in his office doing whatevers, and the kids are walking around. We see a kind of mysterious looking dude with scars that looks like, we know later that it's painted over to look human, to look before we get his visage, he's just painted to look more skin colored. Wanders around and then starts kind of teleporting about and messing up the Secret Service guards. And they kind of rally to get the president out of there, but he manages to take them all out in a very impressive display of kung fu and teleportation skills, getting to the point where he's about to kill the president with a knife, but then is shot by one of his guards who he didn't quite take out, dropping the knife with a little thing on it that says, I even forget what it said on that. Mutant freedom now. That's right. So,
we talked about Nightcrawler.
Sure. Well, what is your issue with Nightcrawler, Davan? Because I know you have issues.
Yeah, I do. One, I don't like the tattoos. They weren't
they're not tattoos. They're scars.
It's weird that Storm is like impressed and turned on by them.
Yeah,
that is kind of weird. They're not tattoos. They're scars. He scarred them on.
Yeah, she's like, did you do them to yourself? And he's like, yes, one for every sin.
They're like angelic symbols that the angel, the guardian angel, Michael, that left to humans. Gabriel, that's what it was. Left to us. The holy angel symbols. Human.
He's just a guy in a baggy coat with blue face paint on. Like,
man, what would
that's what those scars are there for, to
distract you from that.
But for 2003, would you have wanted him to be a fully CGI character, Davan? Because what else would they have done?
I wouldn't want him to be a CGI. What do you want him to be? Because I would just put a guy in blue face paint.
Yeah.
Okay. Now. So I'd CG the tail and I would CG the hands, so you don't have.
Which they did. Well, they didn't do the hands, but the tail was.
Well, I might have just hired like a skinnier person and not put him in a baggy outfit. Like he doesn't.
Alan Cumming is pretty skinny.
He doesn't look that kind of alien kind of Nightcrawler.
I'll agree there. Yeah,
kind of chunky. And what's up with this outfit? It's horrible. What is this?
I was saying to.
Well, it's what a transient person that lives in a church would probably wear.
Those pants. Yeah. Those pants.
Well, he mentioned he was in the circus.
This is what they.
Those circus pants. They're circus pants.
They're like 70s disco.
If it was a hitchhiker, I can tell you that is not how.
Man, you look up images of old old circus stuff. You always see guys with striped pants that look like that. And I'm not saying real. I'm not saying real circus. I'm saying cinema depictions of circus.
I just think it's a little funny because him being in the circus, it's like the time they could have excused a real superhero costume.
Yeah, because you would have had a circus. You're right. Yeah,
it's too silly. So what's not silly? Those fucking pants. Okay, yeah. I guess. That said, I used to have the action figures, so I mean, I was on board with it once upon a time.
What happened to your action figure? I used to love that.
I got rid of most of my stuff when I moved to Halifax because I used to take it with me, and I was unemployed for 2 months, so I didn't have any rent money. So I ended up whatever I could sell, I sold. So I lost all my Muppet stuff that way too.
Boo! Actually, I think I recall buying a bunch of your action figures when you did that. So,
yeah, you bought my Spider-Man stuff for sure.
Yeah.
Imagine Doug Jones in a skin-tight suit or something playing Nightcrawler.
You would be upset that he's too tall, is what you would be upset
imagine
about.
Doug.
He's very tall. He would be super tall.
He's 6'6". He'd be way too tall.
But he'd be hunched over like Nightcrawler all the time. It's
he would look like an alien. He would look like an alien, like a gray alien.
To me, and I'm gonna let my pretend gay flag fly here for a second, but to me, Nightcrawler should be fuckable. I'm just saying that. I think Kurt is a handsome dude.
He's a handsome man.
Except he's got disgusting hands and feet and a devil tail and pointy ears and fangs, and he's blue
fur.
Well, he should be somebody that a woman or a gay person in the audience could be smitten with, in the same way that a dude can look at Mystique and be like,
Yeah, he charms people all the time. That's definitely a thing he does.
Although to be fair, the Mystique design in these movies is fucking terrible too. But whatever.
Yes.
Whatever.
Yeah, she's almost lizard-like in her appearance more than the little.
Yeah, let's just make her naked.
And in this one, she has like this giant cranium.
Yeah, it's a hair is really done.
Yeah, like her hair is actually inside it, and they didn't.
Yeah,
it's just enormous.
Oh my god, she does.
Yeah, I wonder why. Like, if they couldn't shave her hair down or didn't want to do something with her hair for the role or whatever, you think makeup would cover that?
I guess because she appears as herself, and her hair is so much more. It's volumey.
Couldn't they have just put a wig on her when she was herself?
Like, there's a wig there. I don't know.
Yeah, that's good enough.
I got more to say about her, but I'll save it for X points.
Okay.
All right. So we see Logan exploring the Alkali Lake area of Alberta, where he was sent at the end of the first movie by Charles to see if he. This scene is like way near the end, but
Logan in this scene, his hair has like, his hair has so much volume in the first scene. It's like 5 inches off the top of his head.
Yeah, I agree. There's also like, it's weird because like he's almost kind of clean shaven around the beard, so his face is very like it looks almost too manicured. Not that one. He looks fine there. It's when you first
in the very first scene, he's like as clean as you'll see him for the whole movie.
Yeah,
and he's supposed to have been backpacking through like northern buttfuck, you know, like he's supposed to be out there for a bit, and he looks so neat.
Yeah, he does look. He looks very tidy when he shows up to Alkali. And there's also like a little moment where there's like, it kind of reminded me of the Littlest Hobo, where there's like a wolf standing there, and they have a moment where there's like the animal recognizing animal, and then the wolf turns and sort of looks back at him like it wants him to follow him, and then goes through the door, and then later on they're like nothing came of it. The wolf just let me do a can and wanted me to open. I don't know. So
hashtag not my Wolverine. This is Ken Wolverine.
What?
It bothers me more in this scene than any other one. And it's because he looks so clean shaven.
Yeah.
You see him standing in a lot of doorways, so you get the sense of his actual height. Mm-hmm. It bothers me. But then once he gets to the mansion, I forget about it.
He's always bigger than everybody else by so much.
But they're supposed to be kids. You're supposed to believe that those three are kids.
But kids are supposed to be taller than Wolverine.
Yeah, well. What
teenagers? Teenagers are taller.
What actor did you come up with an actor from this time period that's the appropriate height that you would have been okay with?
I said Emilio Estevez, and you laughed at me.
Rightfully so. He's not that short. He can't be that short either.
He is. Yes, he is. He's like 5'5".
Is it? Emilio Estevez, star of the Mighty Ducks, goes on. He does the Mighty Ducks. That's it. Well, you know, I get how tall is Charlie Sheen? He looks closer to the part as far as hair color and stuff goes.
Charlie Sheen's not a good actor like Gordon Bombay.
Jeez, talk about rose-colored glasses, Davan. You're like, man, what an amazing acting job the guy from Mighty Ducks did.
Loaded weapon.
Okay.
Loaded weapon.
Quack, 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 Mr. Duckworth.
Yeah.
And he's actually a decent director, but yeah, anyway, enough about Emilio Estevez. So we see then we cut to Jean Grey and the crew of the X-Men, like all the kids are at a show at the museum learning about museum stuff, being taught by Aurora Monroe about
evolution. They're learning
evolution, yes,
human evolutionary history,
and you know, she's talking about how the people think that the Cro-Magnon man was killed off by am I getting those? The Neanderthals killed off by Cro-Magnon man, but there's evidence to prove that they bred together in our DNA, so that they, you know, may have accepted them and life was okay between them. You know, teasing some harmony here. But then we catch up with Rogue Bobby Drake, who we recognize as Iceman.
It reminds me of that scene. Do you remember like early in Grant Morrison's new X-Men run, where Cassandra Nova has like the distant cousin of Bolivar Trask, the Sentinel,
right? Just to use his DNA to get into the
he's a dentist, and she needs his DNA to activate the master mold or whatever. So she's like trying to convince him to get on her side, get on board. And she's like showing him these psychic visions of Neanderthals being killed by primitive humans, and he's like, "I think science says now that we interbred. I saw a documentary. People just being like slaughtered around.
Yeah.
I saw a documentary.
Yeah, she was very convincing. Yeah, that's a great scene, actually. That sets up that series incredibly well. Yeah, so then we learn the kids are there. We see one kid stick out his tongue at another little girl, and he has the forked tongue.
Artie.
Because she's sticking her tongue out at him. And then we kind of catch up with these ones.
Why not? Let's call him Artie.
He is called
I know.
Artie.
I was watching with my roommate, and
Artie.
she was like, "Who's this kid?" And I was like, "Well, they said he was Artie, but he's not
He's
in any way, shape, or form."
Artie
This
has
kid
mind
Artie.
powers. Yeah, not forked tongue.
They got the gender correct, and beyond that, it's an interpretation.
An interpretation. So yeah, and then we kind of quickly learn that Rogue is dating Bobby, and
they call Bobby Banshee for this because it doesn't matter.
unless he looks like more like Banshee to you.
No, but like it doesn't matter. It could be anybody. Just like
He has ice powers. That's important. The ice powers play into it fairly well.
Yeah, he's an ice man.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
So they're also hanging out with John, who his last name escapes me, but it's right here.
John
Allardyce, who is Pyro.
But he's Saint John.
Saint John.
Allardyce.
Yeah, Saint John Allardyce.
Top. In this, they refer to Old Stick. I say quite a bit.
Old Stick, that's what it is.
Old Stick.
Cool. I actually started saying that in my regular life because of this podcast.
You know what? I'm going to sacrifice an X point because this pisses me off. So this is another Bryan Singer thing because he doesn't care about the X-Men. He just cares about like simple, basic things like the Magneto, Charles Xavier dichotomy, and Wolverine being sexy and tall. But
the dichotomy isn't a simple, basic thing.
Yeah,
no, it's not. But it's like it's the only.
Relationship's like pretty complicated. In fact, we learn more about it here.
It's like 95% of what Bryan Singer thinks the X-Men, and the other 5% is
they don't really interact that much in this movie. Magneto and Xavier do not.
Don't get me started. I'm eventually going to tell you why this is just basically the exact same as the last movie. This is just the inverse of the last X-Men movie. And I will explain that to you if you like. But so this whole, like, there's no reason to make Pyro a kid at the X Mansion anyway. But the only reason they do it because it's like, get it? Fire and ice. They're friends, but he's eventually going to turn on him because fire and ice can't get
All right.
along.
Well, is
fire and ice? Get it?
Yeah, well, they don't really have a fight. They save that for the next movie. But if they're going to have
that whole thing, it's just dumb. Like it's just dumb.
Okay, well, would it have been better? Would it have been better for you if it was Avalanche? Because they had to make it someone that's going to wind up in the Brotherhood.
Yeah,
of
he's going to like.
So would you rather be Avalanche then? Like, who else would it be? We already saw Toad.
In the comics, Pyro is kind of a bastard, but fundamentally not that bad a dude. And he goes up a hero. He dies a hero, basically. Yeah. And as a villain, he never did anything that bad. So I think it's a fair interpretation to be like, here's a kid who doesn't really jive with Professor X's philosophy. He thinks it's all like ridiculous. He does feel like he's hated on because he's better.
Should have been Quentin Quire.
This was long before that came out.
I don't remember what happens to him in the third one, but it's a fine arc. And then in the third one, you should have him realize that he's, gone to the dark side.
No, he doesn't. He just gets beat up by Bobby in a fight.
Well, whatever. Well,
yeah,
you can't blame this movie for that.
No, I can't. You're right. You're right.
Setting up something cool.
I was totally fine with him, and I don't think. I mean, there are certain beats, and like I said, if it was Avalanche, it would have been less interesting. So why not make go the more?
So it would have been less cliche. I would have said.
Well, I mean,
you're fire versus ice. Get it? Fire versus ice. Like
they're trying to like.
It's not even that big of a plot point here. It's not like they really hate each other or they get in a big fight between each other.
It's just another one of the many basic and unattached decisions that.
I would agree with you if they weren't all pictured together in the first movie. So like what they're trying to do is like create an MCU, pre-MCU, without any kind of oversight beyond Bryan Singer. And with 3 years in between the movie. So for that quick little, like,
I think.
Here's two dudes. One's got fire, one's got ice, and they both like Rogue. They're showing off in this scene in the first movie. That's where this comes from. That was fine little. It didn't even really need to be Pyro. It was a kid with fire, and he might call himself Pyro.
He does. He calls himself Pyro.
But does he in the first one?
In this one, he wasn't in the first one. Pyro was in
Yes,
the
he
first
is.
He is, but he's played by a different character.
Yeah, he's playing a different guy. He lights a
but
little ball of fire in his hand.
one. Right, but he doesn't
ice.
really do anything.
No, but that's where this comes
John
from. Like
in that
the
as
three of
well.
them
They
are there
call him
together.
John.
So in this movie, they then go like, okay, this friendship expanded. She ended up with Iceman.
No, I forgot about that. That's fair.
And he's a little bit of a hanger on, and he's a little bit bitter about it, and he's a little la la la. So they're trying to piece something together from little elements that were seeded in the first one.
He's also got something like a chip on his shoulder, right? And as we kind of learn, we don't really get a lot of his backstory, but he like within this, what happens here at the museum is that these kids, for some reason, want to smoke in the museum and get this. Yes, this is really contrived. And there's
this 20-year-old kid in the museum cafeteria want to smoke a
cigarette
and want Pyro's lighter to do it, want to borrow it. He won't give it to them. He's just kind of being a dink. And then when they get physical with him,
Peter Colossus. Because he was wasted in this movie, but he looks cool, and that's
he's used more in the third one, wasn't he?
In the comics, because
he's used a lot more in the third one.
In the danger room for a second one. He's just in the danger room for a second.
No, I'm saying for the third one, I think he's in it more often, isn't he? They expand.
Yeah, he is. He definitely is. Yeah.
So
he's in The Last Stand. He's like next to Kitty.
Like the traitor guy, like the guy who's to kind of goes to the dark.
You would have been okay with Colossus becoming the traitor.
That's because
that.
of the exact moment you started reading X-Men comics. That's like that happened the exact moment you started reading X-Men comics. So that's like stuck in your brain.
I was reading X-Men comics way before that. Well,
really?
I was like 6.
But that's the thing, Devin. Like you always say,
this
this character wouldn't do that or wouldn't do this. Like the comics have been around at this point for what, 50 years? So it's like you can pick from the way the character was in one thing and go with it. If you're like Magneto wouldn't do that, it's like, well, that Magneto might not, but the one they made in this movie does. Like,
no, I was right about Magneto being like an irredeemable piece of shit in the last movie, so that's not really a good way to go.
No, he kind of is in this one too. So you only really helping them out until he can get to what he really wants, which he immediately does when he
steals their shit. That's pretty funny, but.
We'll have to Magneto's going to be a whole portion because there's a lot to say.
There is, although I do really like it. I do really like the way he's played in this. If you don't agree with the character's representation,
half the time I do. But
there's
there are times when. Anyway, we should finish the plot first.
Sure. Well, like that's the point is we broach this stuff as we get to it. So
we haven't even gotten to Magneto in the story yet, though. We're like having at him.
So anyway, we find out Jean Grey's having problems with her powers. Now she has nightmares and she shakes the bedroom. But while that's happening, they get in the location with the kids. Pyro uses abilities to make some fire come out of the cigarette. And then Xavier freezes the entire room, which is terrifying. Like, I know they had to set up that he can do this so they could do it later with the president. But
and it becomes, for the rest of the movies, his main power is freezing rooms full of people. It's so weird.
Yeah, they really do lean on it a lot. So
I'm gonna get into my inverse theory.
Good.
So again, because 95% of what the X-Men is Magneto and Xavier. The last movie was just a bad guy using his own powers in an enhanced capacity to be the big MacGuffin. Magneto wanted to enhance his own powers to turn everyone into mutants, however the hell that works. But in this one, it's just the inverse of that. It's somebody else wanting to use Xavier to be the big MacGuffin and give it.
Well, it's almost
the same movie.
It's almost exactly the plot for God Loves Man Kills, which is what it's based on. It's 100% the same thing. He gets Magneto, he drugs him, he brainwashed him, and then used him to try to kill all of the mutants on the planet using Cerebro. It's the exact same story.
But God Loves Man Kills didn't have a comic before it that was the inverse of that.
Well, I mean, Singer obviously had a reference.
Man Kills 2.
Singer obviously had a reverence for that story, so perhaps he wanted to put elements of it into his story. Well, I mean,
you see how it's like basically the same movie twice?
Not really. I mean, Magneto wants to turn everyone into mutants.
I see.
He wants to turn the entire population
into
mutants.
But we're also in the era of superhero movies that end with a killer device.
Yeah, or a big army fighting a big army.
Well, the super weapon that's like the most ridiculous thing in the movie. Magneto's Statue of Liberty turning it into a mutantfier in the first one, yes. Or weaponizing Cerebro in this one, or Spider-Man 2 has the power of the sun to palm my hands, Or Batman Begins has the turns water into vapor thing, but doesn't do anything with your bloodstream.
Don't forget about the blank
Gloomhaven
slate.
in the Fantastic Four.
The blank
There's
slate.
some bananas fucking device in the third act of most of the superhero movies from this era that's going to end the world.
That is true. That is very true. Yeah, I forgot about that stupid like water. Like it's like we got a machine that basically just makes water, like heats up water faster. Like essentially, it's all it is. It's like it's a giant. It's what a pot does. But
and it's so convoluted just to get like it's like a diffuser. Is basically they wanted a diffuser for the scarecrow toxin.
But like, well, I don't want to go off on a big side note about that. But it's like you think about as a writer writing that story, you're like, hey, we got to figure out a way that like we got to stop everyone. They're going to expose everyone to the fear toxin. Why not just put it in the water? Like that seems way easier than. Yeah, they drink it and then
especially when the rest of the movie is so grounded. Like it's all like it's ninjas which exist and it's mobsters which exist, and then
it's like we need a reason to have a fight on a train, and let's build backwards from that.
Yeah, that's what it comes down to. Yeah,
usually it's probably what it was because they're like trains test big now. That's like how movies are made. They're like people like trains. Let's make sure there's a train in this movie.
People like inverses of X-Men 1. We got to inverse X-Men 1,
and then when we inverse the inverse, we just do X-Men 1 again. It's kind of sad how I wish, like, I know Singer is a problematic figure now, but I would be curious to see if he had just done this as the trilogy and we got his third one, what would have happened? Because I feel like it would have been wildly different than what we got.
I think the third one was probably better without him, and it wasn't good.
You're crazy.
It just would have been the inverse of this again. It just would have been another Xavier, Magneto, Wolverine movie. Yes, of course it would.
But it was that.
Put any time into any
it was that. It was that.
Kind of. Yeah, I guess
but
so.
the MacGuffin in that movie, the MacGuffin in that movie is the Phoenix. That's the only real difference.
And the Beast. And Beast was kind of fun.
Well, Beast was there.
Yeah.
He's there.
He didn't do anything.
Yeah, he jumped around a little bit. That was fun.
Yeah.
Somebody put tossed salad and scrambled eggs all over his face.
So anyway, Xavier freezes everybody, warns Pyro about never doing that sort of thing again. Then they see a news article comes on the news about the attempt on the president's life being caused by a mutant.
Oh, hold on. You're right, Dave. You're right. The third one is the exact same. It's just Phoenix's
Phoenix is the MacGuffin that's going to destroy the world.
100% to write movies where a mutant power is enhanced as the big MacGuffin. That's the same.
He didn't write the third one.
Friggin' times.
I think it's based on like his treatment or something, but it changed.
Oh, was it?
It was. Yeah, Ratner just came.
Well, I mean, listen, you can't unless you've read the script or his original script, you can't say that it was exactly the same.
But I don't have. I agree that is true.
About her. Yeah.
Yeah,
it's true, but I don't have a problem with it. I don't have a problem with it.
Well, it's a trope for most horror movies or most superhero movies, right? Like as you said, at this point, almost all of them have some big thing that they need to get.
I remember. I wish I was here for the first one because
I'm talking about
that first movie. I remember Roger Ebert being like reviewing the first movie and being like, in the final scene, they were talking to each other like they weren't even sure what their powers were. Like they were like these movies are really proto, man. Like Avengers didn't come along yet; they didn't know what to do. So you have to like.
I was not kind on the script of the first one because the dialogue was almost like needless for most of it. It was just.
Well, they didn't know how to get every character involved in the climax, so they have this insane like, okay, Storm, you use wind and blow Wolverine up there. Jean, you steady him. I'll shoot the thing, and Wolverine will claw. Like it's just like so they all like combine.
And also they need to use like instead of just using her powers to put Cyclops' visor on his face, she has to put it and then tilt it when he shoots into it, so it tilts around and then shoots him like that. I guess that makes sense because he was not straight in front of Cyclops, but I don't know. It's just. Yeah, so it is a bit complicated. So
I'm gonna go freshen up my beer because this movie's driving me to drink. I'll be right back.
That's so nuts! Wow, I've never disagreed with you so fundamentally before. But anyway,
he really hates all of the X-Men movies.
Everyone,
pretty much.
I don't hate.
You've said this. I'm sure we could rewind the tape.
Well, no, to me they're not. They're barely X-Men movies, and I've just explained to you in the last 10 minutes here why they're. I think they're just barely X-Men movies. They're just Xavier, Magneto, Wolverine movies. And like this should have been the Wolverine movie because it's around Alkali Lake and all that kind of stuff. But like 100%. The fact that they had already exhausted the shit out of Wolverine in the first movie, which he shouldn't even have been in. Like it makes this movie worse. If this like was a big Wolverine introduction, it would have been very exciting and like. But I was already like all over the Wolverine Ken thing.
I agree with
Ken
the things you
Wolverine.
say, but not why you're
Yeah.
saying them.
It's basically
Well,
what
welcome to my
André
world,
tells me
David.
about everything I say. Yeah. He's like,
Yeah,
well,
no.
maybe if you just said it different. I'm like,
No, that's a different story. That's how you antagonize your
that's a
co-host on
different
the other
story.
show. That's nothing to do with
that's
this.
true. That's true.
I feel like you get wrapped up in trying to be controversial to the extent of like entertaining that sometimes you forget about how insulting you can be sometimes.
Oh, on that show? Oh, definitely.
However,
but yeah, this
Yeah.
I'm not going to be super kind on most of these movies. This one's okay. First Class is okay.
I think this is the best one, honestly. But there's a lot of spinning plates, and there's a lot of characters to try to do something with. And like we had this discussion in the first movie that it's like, you can't give everyone a huge character arc, otherwise it would be a 10-hour miniseries instead of a 2-hour movie.
And budgets and special effects are what they are.
Yeah,
like it's going to be like prohibitively expensive to have a final scene where all the X-Men are flying around and doing shit. Like it'd be not till 2012 when Avengers came out, and really not till Avengers Ultron when we'd see an ending where like people were using superhero abilities in an action way all at once.
Yeah, and they got like things falling out of the sky and all the robots and everything. Like I guess it was similar to the fight in New York.
Even in Avengers 1, like Thor has powers and everybody else is just strong.
Mm-hmm.
So there's not a lot of like, there's no like eye beams going on. There's no like pop claws. They're trying to do something really difficult, and it's the first time out. You have to be a little understanding that it's a bit messy. And this movie's not that messy.
No, not as messy as the first one. The first one, like all this bad rope work everywhere. It's just like if your rope work's going to be bad, you don't need Sabretooth to leap weirdly into the woods. Just
there's
no need for it anyway.
There's anytime there's an explosion, I was noticing that with the guards. Every time there's an explosion or like when they blow up the cop cars, there's always like one guy that goes upside down and then flips and usually hits a tree and then like side goes off to the side.
Hits the tree. He really fucking beefs it, actually.
I love. Well, we'll get to that scene. We'll talk about more later when we get there. So they go back to the school.
Dad wanted to get a drink, I think. Actually.
Oh right, go ahead. Well, we can keep talking, Davin, while you're going.
You guys got to keep going and knock off some plot there. I'm just going to keep interrupting you about like things.
I'll sit quietly while you.
Well, no, this is not entertaining. We need to talk about it as we go along. That's the point. That's how the show works.
If the mood rises.
Okay. We go back to the school. We see Xavier trying to track, the mutant that attacked the president. And he's having trouble because we know he's a teleporter, but they don't know that yet. So he's moving around.
He's moving erratically.
Also Wolverine returns to the school. And we see him kind of hang out with Xavier, and see how Cerebro works. This is how we establish everything that we need for later for the final, where he shows all the life on the planet and then all the mutant life on the planet. Which
he asks Rogue and Iceman how they fuck.
Yeah, that's true. He finds out they're dating, and
how is that your business, Wolverine?
Well, it wouldn't be that hard with condoms and, maybe some kind of placement of a sheet with a hole in it, maybe, or something. They could do it.
Saran wrap, like mine.
Yeah, they could make it work. They couldn't kiss a lot, maybe, but also saran wrap might help, I suppose. It'd be weird, but whatever. So
Cyclops and Jean, right?
Yes, that's exactly. Yeah, we they're Mormons. They have the sex sheet with the hole in it.
Oh my god! Oh my god!
God!
As if Cyclops wasn't bad in this movie enough already. Oh,
yeah, Lord. He is pretty vanilla. He doesn't do.
Not that I have any problem with James Marsden or his acting or his casting.
No, but he wasn't given a lot.
Obviously,
there's nothing.
If Bryan Singer doesn't care about the X-Men, he really doesn't care about Cyclops.
Okay,
and they do not want two white male heroes in the same movie. Like you gotta sideline one of them.
Side note: does anybody watch the show Jury Duty that's on Prime?
I saw the first episode. I enjoyed it.
So yeah, he is hilarious in it. Like hilarious. He's fantastic. Davin, it's a show. It's a reality show where they make a fake trial. And one of the jurors isn't in on the joke, but everyone else is an actor. Well, not in the conventional sense. It's more like a prank. They're playing a one guy. Everyone's an actor in this trial, except one juror who thinks it's real, and they just like fuck with them the whole time until the end. But James Marsden plays himself who gets selected for jury duty, and it's in the box, and he plays himself as a real asshole actor, keeps reminding people of all the stuff he's in, and like it's just a real, it's really full of himself, and he's hilarious.
That's 2 lines in the X-Men trilogy. You did.
He does mention he was Cyclops. He mentions he's in the Notebook a lot, and Sonic and all these other things. It's pretty funny.
Oh, the part where he has to explain like who he was in Sonic
Diner.
and what kind of movie Sonic was. That's very funny.
The part
Boogie's Diner.
The part that killed me on that. Well, there's 2 parts, but that part where he brings him. He tells me watch Sonic, and then Brace Marston's like, "Did you buy it or did you stream it?" And he's like, "I streamed it." And he's like, "You should. I wish you would have bought it. I would have made $1 if you bought it." And then at one point, like early on, when he's in the waiting room, one of the other like the people that he thinks is just a juror is there, and he's like, "I don't really want to do this. What do I have to do to get out of this?" And the guy's like, "Well, the guy that's like doesn't know that's the joke. His name's Ron." He's like, "Well, I saw this thing on Family Guy, but it's funny." And the guy's like, "Well, what was it?" And he's like, "Well, Peter pretended to be racist to get out of it." And then the guy's like, he goes, "Well, that was just on this cartoon." And then it cuts later to the guy, and he's standing there. They're asking him, "Is there any reason why he couldn't be a juror?" And he looks over at that Ron, the main guy, and he's looking at him and shaking his head, like he's like, "No, don't do it." It's like comedically, it's an amazing show. But Marston I think he got nominated for an Emmy for it. I don't know if he won one, but he's really good. Yeah, he's very good. I mean, a version of himself. I'm sure he's not like that in real life. Hopefully,
he's very good and very funny in Enchanted. Is that the movie?
Yeah. And that movie that the guy had the DVD for, Sex Drive, I actually really like. It's kind of a goofy teen sex comedy, but it's a good one. So Wolverine gets the ins and outs and how Cerebro works. He meets Bobby, who's a little territorial about Rogue because they're dating now. But then they send Storm and Jean off to go find the mutant, which they've pinned down where he might be staying now. And then Cyclops and Professor X go off to visit an old friend. Now, just before that, we meet William Stryker, who is a government scientist, a soldier scientist / who is preparing a statement, who is going to the president to get permission to do a secret mission in which he basically is going to invade the school. During this meeting,
have a bunch of kids.
During this meeting, Senator Kelly is there, who we know from the previous movie is actually Mystique in disguise.
It's very post 9/11 when he describes it to the president as a mutant training facility. Yeah, it's like, remember when the news was all full of these like supposed terrorist training facilities out in the woods here and there and stuff.
Yeah,
we've been able to do our jobs, Mr. President, and that's when the president just cuts him off. He's like, "I don't need to hear that friggin' speech." Also, it's so great when he shows them the picture of the plane, and they're like, "What kind of jet is that?" "We don't know, but it comes up out of the basketball court." Mm-hmm. This movie has some great shit in it.
It does. Stryker is a really good villain. I like Brian Cox, a great actor, but he's a great villain in this movie. You really dislike him.
Oh, yeah, but he chews every line like he relishes saying it. Like he does such a good job.
One of the best face actors ever. Like he makes a crazy expression with his face on every line of dialogue in every movie I've seen him in. Brian Cox is something.
So he gets permission from the president to detain and take some of the kids, but not to kill anybody. Question. Detain, detain, and question. But
the last thing we need is to see the body of a mutant kid on the 6 o'clock news.
Not that would be sad. It's just the last thing we need.
Yeah, the president's he's not concerned. He's not overly concerned about well, maybe he would say that about any kid. If there's an issue with a riot somewhere or something with a minority, he'd probably say it in a similar way. I'm not trying to defend him, but because he does have sort of a redeeming moment towards the end of the movie.
Well, we started the first thing we know about him. The first thing
Pardon?
I say you're not a fanboy or anything, President McConaughey.
McConaughey, not at all.
It's the closest we've been to McKinney shill this entire time.
That's true.
The first thing we know about the president, though, is that he wants his assistant to cancel all his meetings for the day because he's having dinner with his son. Yeah. And she's like, "Will do, Mr. President," and not like, "No, you can't do that. You're meeting the Pope. You're the fucking president." Like,
cancel the Pope.
Schedule. But that's what lets you know that fundamentally he's a good person. He's just wrapped up in the politics of it.
Yeah.
How about one, Mr. President? How about I cancel one of your meetings for the day so you can have dinner?
Yeah. How long is dinner going to be with your 8-year-old son, sir?
We're going to have dinner, goddammit. It's a nightly affair.
Started on how much he eats.
So So Kelly Mystique as Kelly is trying to temper Stryker's bloodlust here, saying, "What do you want, a war?" And then Stryker gets in his face and says, "I've been doing Black Ops missions in the jungle when you were sucking on your mother's tit at Woodstock. The war's already started." And it gets very aggressive, and we learn that he is this type of guy, that he needs a war, and this is his war. And he's been working
what
on.
What he's basically saying to him is, I'm 10 to 15 years older than you. He's not that much older than him.
Yeah.
He's playing this big look there, kid. It's just a couple of gray hairs going at it.
They look basically
slightly. They both, they don't look that far in age when he says that, but he is. This is to establish him,
Kelly.
And we learn that he's been in charge of dealing with the mutant issue within the government for decades. So longer than Xavier's been around doing his mutant thing, because obviously Wolverine was involved in stuff from back in the other movies.
And Xavier and Magneto know it.
Yes, they do. Because they had a dealing with him before, which we'll learn later on. So we also see that Stryker is using is visiting Magneto in his prison and having him beaten, and then using some kind of a drug they put in through a hole in the back of the neck to make him subservient to give the secrets. Now the president, we learned,
they don't need a syringe. It's this drop. So
they just drop it in. Well, the president asked where they got Kelly asked where they get the information from when they had this meeting with the president. Stryker says that it was a mutant terrorist that they detained from the incident in New York. So that's where Kelly learns where Magneto is, or at least the leanings of where Mystique learns, so that she can get to him later. So we see how they do this. They basically savagely beat an elderly man with a plastic baton, and then brainwash him into giving up the secrets of the school. And that's how they learned about Xavier's thing.
They're beating an elderly man with concentration camp trauma.
Yeah, it's true.
They're not being very nice.
Well, for a guy that doesn't like humanity, he's been given a lot of reasons to not like humanity. So, I can't say he's wrong. He's in the concentration camps. The government gets a hold of him, and they beat him and drug him and force him to give up secrets against his will.
Magneto was right.
Yeah. So while this is all going on, we see Cyclops and Xavier go meet with Magneto. Magneto talks with. They leave Cyclops behind. Also, we meet Yuriko, who is William Stryker's assistant, who we know as Lady Deathstrike later. But Kelly Hugh.
That's all we need to say about her.
Doesn't do a lot. She, in fact, she's kind of a tragic figure, and we'll get to that a little later.
Yeah,
exactly. So she
really gets the Jurassic World personal assistant treatment. The one who gets eaten by 6 pterodactyls, and then the Mesosaur gobbles her. She was mind controlled this whole time. Did she deserve this?
Yeah, not at all. In fact, they even see her eyes go back to a normal human color. We'll get to that later. So anyway, then it's Professor X goes to meet Magneto. They have a bit of a conversation where Magneto decides to goad him more and more, and then we learn that Magneto admits that he's being drugged and giving up the secrets to Stryker. Well, first he tells Xavier that Stryker is the one who's been visiting him, who they both know as. Magneto
has been in his cell reading The Once and Future King.
Yeah, so I was going to bring that up later because it comes up at the end of the movie. It's a great book. I've read it. If you're familiar with that book, Davan, have you read the book?
Read it, but I'm familiar.
The movie, actually, the Disney movie, The Sword and the Stone, is kind of an adaptation of it, but it's mostly about different types of power, as for King Arthur's learning how to rule as a kid, being taught by Merlin. And Merlin shows him all the different, by transforming him to different animals and bringing them to different places. He sees how people rule over other people and the different ways you can do that. And it's a lot of about, how are you going to rule when you're in charge, or how are you going to wield the power that you're given? So it's a theme that obviously
freeze
plays in
rooms.
Yeah.
That's how you wield the power you're given. You freeze rooms with it.
So they gas at Professor X, knock him out. They try to dart Cyclops. He manages to fight back, but then gets taken down by Deathstrike, who we learned here has impressive martial arts skills and is pretty strong. She's always cracking her fingers too, which we know because she has claws later that come out.
I don't mind Lady Deathstrike beating Cyclops, but give me a fight scene.
Yeah, it's barely a fight scene.
Okay, I'm going to
spoil one boot to the lips and then he's down.
There's not one good choreographed fight scene in this movie or the previous movie.
Well,
the fight
Nightcrawler.
choreographer. I don't know
Nightcrawler
who they
invading
hired. That thing's cool. I mean, I guess it's kind
at the
of
time it was breathtaking.
Wolverine's
Yeah, it was, but I'd call
Wolverine's
that-
slicing
I
through some
guess
of the
so.
people attacking the school.
Oh
is
yeah,
pretty
there's
good,
some
too.
cool stuff with Wolverine
Yeah.
fighting the dudes.
Yeah.
It's all in the first half.
Mostly, yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
that scene's probably the best scene in any of these movies. He's trying to defend them.
So when Wolverine came back, they said that he was going to left behind to babysit the kids. He can't sleep, so he gets up, notices a bunch of other kids awake. One is, do we have a name for this kid? The kid that's watching TV and doesn't sleep.
Hardy.
That's Artie. No, Artie, the kid watching
No, we're
TV
just
and the
we're-
kid with the
calling
tongue
them
are
Every
two
kid
different
is
kids.
Hardy.
All right, the
They're
kid
all
watching
Hardy.
TV and the kid with the tongue were two different kids.
Yeah, this kid has glasses and like a
That's
mop
true.
top.
So he's changing the channels
Leech.
by blinking his eyes.
We'll call
He
him
also
Leech.
well, he also doesn't sleep. So then when he goes to the kitchen, he runs into Bobby, who also is having trouble sleeping. He frees the string for them. They're hanging out and chatting. Then we see Wolverine sense that something's happening, and this is the school is being invaded. We see Artie get tranked by the guards, and them tranking kids all over the room. Some of their powers are being used, like one screams to hurt everyone.
That was
Siren.
Cool. That was Siren.
Siren. Yeah.
Yeah.
That one I'll take. See, that was actually one of the few good placements of a character they put in here. Like, she couldn't be a kid at that school. It was a good use of her power. You know,
Yeah.
someone's
No,
speaking
I
in,
agree.
screaming. Like that was one of the
If they got to make it
finally
a
they
kid,
did
like
it
I said,
right.
if you have a disposable kid and you have 100,000 characters to
A
choose from, in the
disposable
X-Men
kid.
universe-
We got fucking Reverend William Stryker over here. or over
I meant
here.
like a disposable character, not
yeah,
the kid.
yeah, I know.
I mean, I'm not saying all kids should die. Just saying maybe one or two.
Yeah, case by case basis.
Yeah, exactly. We must
last thing
control
we
the means of commerce, of production. No, just kidding. The trains will run on time. All right. So there's a big fight here in which Wolverine fights with all these soldiers, rips them all to shreds, basically. And we see some interactions with Colossus, who's also awake at the time, meddling up and fighting some other people as well. During the
just
fight,
made him Russian. Like, again, a lazy choice. He has two lines anyway. They could have said it in Russian.
no, see, I disagree with it being a lazy choice.
so
It's like if
lazy.
it's not lazy. It's like you just want more from that character, and we need a big character who's strong to help the kids get to the school. So we can't
And to not make
necessarily.
an audience who doesn't know the X-Men that well go like, why is he Russian? Like, it'd be a distraction, really, that
Yeah,
this guy has this huge Russian
It's a school
accent.
for mutants. Is it just a school for American mutants?
but I mean,
It's simplifying things in the same way that giving Spider-Man organic web shooters was. Like, they were
Get me
asking
started
the
on
mainstream
that.
audience to like roll with a lot of stuff, so that
And
some
also-
stuff got streamlined.
and also like I said, it's kind of like, I guess they probably assume they'll probably get a third movie out of this, but maybe they're hoping they could do more with him in the third movie, like they did more with certain characters from the first movie in this one. So Rogue has more. Well, I guess Rogue had a lot of the first one too, but we get Iceman. We get other stuff. So
It's not like I'm pro no Russian accent, but it
No, I
doesn't bother
agree.
me. Yeah,
You didn't
I would have
to
preferred
explain
it.
why he was Russian and dead.
yeah, well, that's
No, but he's a character who does more stuff. So like to a person in the audience who doesn't know X-Men, this is just a random mutant with a random ability appearing. And if you start
Yeah.
piling on stuff that make him a character, then you're just like, why am I learning so much about this dude who's not
Yeah.
important to the film at all?
The X-Men, though, like that's what I want. I want more. I regret this.
He draws, sir.
well,
He
that's
draws
it. Like
a picture of Iceman.
We know
and
that's true.
Rogue.
He does draw.
Yeah, he shows another kid a picture of Iceman getting kissed by Rogue, and
Oh,
he's
yeah.
like,
Yeah, and him getting
killed.
shocked, so he does draw. So there's that note
Yeah.
too. They put in
they-
what they
they
could, I
did
think,
that.
with the space they had.
Yeah,
So anyway, the
we
Colossus,
never heard a Russian accent from Black Widow until like her own movie.
Yes, that's true. Very true.
It was a different
So-
time.
I never pictured her with one. Strangely enough, though, like I
Oh,
read
really?
comics,
I certainly
put
did.
a Russian
She was
accent in
written
her
with
head.
one at different times way back in the day. They definitely,
Yeah.
depending on the writer or the way they did the lettering, her dialogue had a.
The old
Russian
school
bent
ones, for sure.
So Wolverine manages to take out a bunch of them, sends the kids off, helps them get out with the help of Colossus, sends Bobby, Pyro, and Rogue off down a secret passageway. And then when he's on his way tearing through people, he's met with William Stryker, who recognizes him as Wolverine. and is quite surprised that Xavier takes in, animals. He refers to Wolverine a lot as an animal, as not a human, as something else, a creature, and admits that he knows who Wolverine is, and they have a past. Wolverine, of course, has no memory of it, but Stryker uses a code word, nature, which makes Wolverine's claws descend back into his body, implying that Stryker had something to do with his programming. Wolverine, of course, wants to know more, but the kids turn back to come help him, and they make an ice wall between them, which allows them to help Wolverine go. Wolverine wants to stay, but actually, I like this moment where he's like, "I can look after myself, or I'll be fine." And then Rogue says, "We won't." Like they need him, which is what turns him around from his mission to get answers. And actually, it's kind of a continuing theme that it's sort of like the family he's built now and the life he has now is almost more important than trying to find the answers. More importantly later, but it is a theme that kind of carries out towards the end of the story. So Wolverine takes off with them. They steal Cyclops' car, which is a running gag with Wolverine stealing Cyclops' modes of transportation, and they take off. And we learned earlier that Bobby's family lives in Boston, and they don't know that he's a mutant. They think he's at a private school. So they decided.
The only good line they ever give Cyclops in these movies is when Wolverine shows up with his bike. It's like, your bike's out of gas. And he throws the keys back at him. He's like, then fill her up.
Yeah, throws it back in.
Even then, the Cyclops catches the keys like this.
Yeah.
Wolverine does this. Wait, where's my hand?
Oh, I know.
He's pretty milquetoast.
Yeah, Cyclops just he's so scared of the keys, and they get thrown. Wolverine doesn't give a fuck. Boom.
Yeah.
He's got him.
So
and then the Cyclops, the listening to NSYNC or whatever, like that.
Yeah.
Is surprising coming from Bryan Singer. That is like clearly this guy's gay. Boy band's gay.
So in the car, Pyro goes to turn on the music,
I'm
and
glad you're
it's
here,
really
Dave.
loudly.
You come here for all of these movie reviews.
Actually, it's good. Dave's a good buffer because like he's somewhere between my
In this case,
like
yes, I am between you two.
Yeah.
I'm closer to you, Andre. I'm closer.
Yeah,
to you,
I agree.
I am between you.
But you do manage to make Davin's stuff funny and not mean, which makes it easier to get through.
It's okay to be mean to a movie.
Yeah, but it doesn't usually stay there.
It makes Andre sad.
So we see Mystique take the form of Lady Deathstrike and then break into a facility to get access to learn where Charles is Magneto's being kept. At the same time, she sees notes about the Cerebro 2 they're building based on the information they've gotten from Magneto. Then we see the crew that escaped get to Iceman's parents' house in Boston, where they're waiting to meet up with Storm, Jean, and Nightcrawler, who are on their own side mission, because he finds a phone in the car that lets him talk to them. It's an X phone, has their own line. They track Nightcrawler down to an abandoned church somewhere where they have a little altercation with them.
Phone. What is this?
Yeah. Well, it's a weird looking phone. Like, couldn't it just been a
it's got
phone?
no screen. Like it's like a cell phone from 2003 with no screen.
Like, couldn't it have just been a phone? Like, why did it have to be this fancy X-shaped thing? Like, it could have just been a phone. Like or like a satellite phone or whatever, right? Like, it didn't. Not everything needs to be branded X-Men.
Because it stands for extra power.
Good point. It is very extra powerful phone. So they track down Nightcrawler, who is hiding in this church. He's trying to intimidate them with his powers.
Did you ever watch Tim and Eric?
Oh, yeah.
The Cinco phone?
Oh, yeah.
That only takes calls. You can't make an outgoing call with the Cinco phone.
I quote the Cinco sleep time party mask all the time. The one where you just wear this mask and you're on a thing and you're just asleep and you're at a party and it just talks. That, I understand. Thanks for coming. I understand.
That's what the X-Men have, is a Cinco phone.
So, they try to intimidate him, or he tries to intimidate them with his powers. They use theirs to knock him out of the rafters, and Jean uses theirs to stop him from teleporting away. Then they learn that he doesn't remember doing everything. It was only when he got shot that he came to, and that he remembers nothing after just hiding out in the church where he lives. And that's where they learn about his scars when they patch up his bullet hole. And when they ask about the hole in the back of his neck, he didn't even know it was there. And that's what leads them towards figuring out, us knowing that he was brainwashed by Stryker as well, which is funny that Stryker let him go. Stryker just after he did his, because we learned
when he gets shot, it snaps him out of it, so he doesn't return to base basically.
Oh, fair enough. Yeah, so he may have carried out what he's supposed to do, gone back to Stryker and then continued.
Yeah, he would have been like Lady Deathstrike otherwise, but Even though Lady Deathstrike gets punched a lot and it doesn't snap her out of it, a bullet does, for whatever reason. God. It was God.
It was God. Deus ex machina.
Well, this is an American movie. Bullets are God.
Good point. Xavier comes too, and he
I don't
has
like
a
politics in my comics.
It's like politics in my X-Men.
I don't want you making X-Men all political with like social messages and stuff. Why would you do that? It's just a fun superhero story about guys and girls in colorful costumes fighting each other with powers.
Did you guys get so woke anyway?
I got some literature. So Xavier comes too as the face-to-face with Stryker. We learn that Stryker's son was sent to Xavier's school to deal with his powers, although Xavier had trouble, wasn't able to help him. When he went back home, he blamed his parents for his condition, punished them by beaming horrifying images in their heads, and Stryker's wife used a power drill to try to drill them out in her temple and kill her, which led him to obviously believe that mutants are blight. He has and blame Xavier for not being able to help him, I suppose, and using all this.
Like a twist. Dave, what do you think? Is this character?
No, because it's mentioned well
like
before.
Off of like Proteus mixed with Legion.
It's I mean it's Jason.
Like,
it's Jason. So he's mastermind. Is this guy, right?
Yes. Yeah. Jason.
Oh,
Stryker.
you think that's Jason Weingard?
Yes, that's who I think this
Jason
is.
Weingard? Oh,
because he's an illusionist. He casts illusions.
Yeah, that makes sense.
If you look up
the son of William Stryker, okay.
Now here I'll point out that I don't think William Stryker is a reliable narrator.
Oh, fair enough. I agree.
I think he was already involved in using mutants as weapons when he found out that his son was a mutant. Took him to Professor X, who he, in his understanding, had like some kind of cure for this sort of thing. Didn't work out, and when the kid got back home, life was hell for him, and he took it out on his parents. Like I don't think that he was just fucking around or whatever. I think that his parents were pieces of shit, probably had some of it coming, and then, you know, as he gave in to doing those kinds of awful things, Jason got worse and worse and eventually drove his mother crazy.
But I can't believe I never clued into that though, Jason.
Actually, according to the internet, because he's listed as Jason 6783 or whatever they call him in the movie. He's a supervillain, the son of William Stryker in the comics. He was introduced in the God Loves Man Kills. His character was later reintroduced in all new X-Men 19 from 2013. He was officially given the name Jason Stryker in that version. At this time, Jason's mother, Marcy Stryker, got pregnant. Her father, William, was still a colonel. After the couple crashed a car in Nevada desert, Marcy went into labor, forced Stryker to deliver the baby. So he's the surviving baby. Yep. Fell unconscious in the process upon waking up.
In that God Loves Man Kills, he says he kills the baby.
William saw his son's birth, a sign from God, causing him to turn to a religious fanatic. As an adult, Jason was kept alive, and Stryker resorted to AIM to treat his son's mutant condition. That's what they did later. As an adult, he joined the Purifiers to continue his father's work.
So he's not Jason Wingard. He's just a
Jason Stryker. Yeah,
Jason Stryker. Okay.
He's in the Ultimate Marvel universe as well, and in the film, he's shown in Wolverine Origin as well in a cameo. But yeah, so that's his stance. So anyway, we learn this is where Xavier surmises that the attack on the president was created by Cox to give him and stir up enough fear that they will give him permission to enact this plan.
Cox, eh?
Right. And then, you know, and he also mentions that Cyclops is getting a re-education, meaning that they're programming him with we also learned that the stuff they use to control people is literally fluid from the brain of his own son, who he lobotomized and uses as a weapon. He says his son is dead, and this is just a weapon, basically, which is his son Jason, who has 2 different colored eyes and has a big scar on his head and is in a wheelchair. And they use his brain goo to mind control other people.
See, for me, that I didn't really like that motivation. I love Brian Cox's performance and like everything up to this point with Stryker. I love, but I didn't need the personal element to it, like that he had this whole past with his son.
Well, it matches the William Stryker.
I liked him better
thing,
as just like a guy raging against all mutants without kind of that's the personal.
Yeah, you think that it's better
if the comic book Stryker. He's just more of a fanatic.
Well, no, in the comic, his son was a mutant, and he killed him, and then his wife. You know, like so.
That's true, but
he does have a reason.
It was like this fanatic against all.
But because that character was so religious, he believed that was God punishing punishing. He didn't think he did anything wrong. He think his wife did something wrong, and that was God punishing her. So,
but where you think Stryker has this, like, for most of this movie, he just has this philosophical belief that mutants are a problem and a danger because through his military training, he sees threats places and things like that. I just feel like they kind of destroy that a bit, and then it's like, oh, it's all just like every other movie where everybody has to be the brother or the son. Like everybody's always a family member in every friggin' movie.
no, it's all I know. It's just a quick way to make some extra emotion.
Famous for
It's
that,
like cheap emotional stakes, yeah. But like,
well, it's also it's a quicker way than showing. Like there has to be an emotional stake, and I'm not saying you're wrong because you're right, but it's just a quick device in movies to build more of a relationship between two people than you might have time for to do normally.
Yeah, it works just very well as the extra, like this is how far he went to reach his goals of defeating the mutant menace. He
lobotomized his own son.
No, he didn't do this to like a random kid. He did it to his son.
Yeah.
And he feels like he had his reasons, but he's a fucked up dude.
He sure is. So the crew that go to get Nightcrawler, while this is going on, we see the X-Men that escape hiding out at Bobby's house. His parents come home. He has to tell them he's a mutant. They, of course, aren't taking it they're not taking it terribly, but they're also not
just breaking it to them.
Yeah, I love when they ask, "What kind of professor are you?" And he says, "Art." Yeah. He's a professor at the school, and he's like, the dad's like, "What kind of professor are you?" He's like, "Art."
Couldn't he have said Jim? Like, did it have to be like
Jim?
Yeah, I would have said Jim too, but because look at him, he looks like a gym teacher. He's still got 80s hair. He's all jacked. He's wearing a wife beater. Like, he's not. This is just so. The brother, Bobby's brother, upon learning he's a mutant, runs away and goes upstairs and calls the police.
Jealous.
So the police show up, and we get to see Pyro, who's frustrated with having to hide his abilities, use them to fuck up the police cars with all these acrobatic displays of strewn all around. There's one where the car, like I mentioned earlier, spins and hits a tree and spins the other way. It's a lot of spinning with some of these explosions.
Absolutely off.
The
fight and the action sequences in these movies phoned it in. They might be
you're watching it with the wrong eyes. The wrong eyes.
You have to take into context when it was made too, right?
Yeah, you're watching it the way that I watched. You're watching it the way I watched Superman in 2003. Where like I was comparing it to stuff coming out then, and like then all you needed was a picture of a ship, a big boat in a city street. Superman dropped this boat in the city street. You didn't even see it happen. In 1978, that was wondrous. That was wonderful. And you kind of need to watch it through that lens of what was capable, what they were capable of at the time.
Well, True Lies came out like 10 years before this and is 1,000 times better.
There's no superpowers in True Lies. I mean, even the Matrix looks like garbage now.
There's no superpowers in these movies either, really.
Yeah, I don't even know what that means. Everybody's got superpowers.
Like Cyclops shoots his beams off what? Like, does he even do it in this movie?
Yes.
The whole thing is basically
he shoots at Jean like a million times later on, and he takes out the two guards before Lady Deathstrike.
It knocks her down with him too before she gets to.
Does Storm do any powers in this movie?
Yeah,
Storm is more powerful in this movie than she's ever in the movies before or since. She
uses
creates like a million tornadoes.
Yeah, she uses the lightning during the which we're getting to, but she also uses the lightning to knock Nightcrawler out of the to blow up. Lightning strikes the rafter he's on to make him fall, so Jean can catch him.
She creates an ice storm to freeze Jason Stryker.
Yeah,
jolt him out of his powers, and she also makes. She's the one who cuts the electricity in the final scene.
And her accent mysteriously disappears.
Yes, it is.
That's another power.
Like, I think she brings it back, and then it goes again.
She's the worst casting in this movie, by far. Yeah, this is what it is.
Because it's my favorite character, and like I can't really forgive any movie that does that.
Yeah, fair enough. So then the cops show up. Then Jean and them show up to pick up because they get a call on the phone, the X phone, to pick them up and figure out what to do next. When that's happening, they're chased by the military, who were probably tipped off by because of everything going on with the fight. They basically like make a slide note to Pyro for causing all this destruction. It obviously put them in a higher bracket of being chased after by the police, I guess, who have jets now, or at least the military. So there's a whole scene where they're shooting missiles at them, and Storm's making whirlwinds to try to distract them. Jean's using her powers to send the missiles away before they strike the ship. However, she gets spread a little too thin, and one does clip the ship, causing it to go into a tailspin and crash. But before they hit the ground, they're saved by... Oh, yes, I didn't get to this point yet. So earlier, after Mystique learned about the guy, like where he was being held, she got records on the employees, found the guy that's like his jailer, tracked him to a bar, appeared as herself, came on to him, got him into the drugged him, got him into the bathroom, and when he passed out, and put a syringe in his ass, and then sent him on his way. So when he goes in to deal with Magneto kind of awakens and says, "There's something different about you," and he's like taking out his baton to beat him again, and then Magneto says, "Too much iron in your blood," and literally takes all the iron out of his blood, killing him, and then making these cool little... This is a really good scene.
Whole franchise.
Yes, it is. It is.
Yeah, it is.
And it's something that's like so raw and crazy. Like it's like when the MCU gets to Magneto, it's not going to be this good.
I agree. This good. It's not, but
I disagree with you there. I mean, it's going to be hard to get an actor that good, but they can make him more like Magneto.
You know what?
It's going to be hard to top this scene, maybe, but they can do it. There's been Magneto scenes in the...
One of the castings that came out of them saying what they're going to do with that was Daniel Craig, and for some reason, I keep thinking I like that idea. I think he'd be a good Magneto. I don't know. I mean,
I'm very bad at picturing actors in roles.
I think he would be great.
If I saw it, I'd love it. I don't know.
Yeah. He like his American accent's pretty solid when he does one. Not the Knives Out one, but like in Logan Lucky or some of those other movies.
And he doesn't need an American accent.
Yeah, I mean,
no, he doesn't. That's right. He could be whatever, but
he's Magneto. He needs an Eastern European.
That's true. That's true.
Which he's done before. He's
although I mean, for time they're going to have to advance him. He can't be a concentration camp survivor.
In Days of Future Past, he has 2 different accents.
That is true, depending on what timeline you're in. So they so
3 actually, since the little kid did have a German accent.
he makes these balls to the metal, use it as bullets basically to kill everyone, and then turn them into platforms to walk. It's very cool scene when he turns one into the platform.
Good stuff.
Yeah. Oh, it's super good. So then
and when Lorio first walks in and Magneto's still pretending to sleep. And smiles because
you see him. You see it ping, and then he recognizes. He feels that there's his blood. So
he just goes, no.
Yeah.
Like you are so screwed now. You're so screwed. But yeah.
So before the jet hits the ground, he is stopped by Magneto, who is with Mystique, and
in the middle of the woods for some fun.
I'm not sure why he was there.
The movie's big, like you're supposed to like dovetail your plots together, but they had no reason for Magneto to be walking with Mystique in the middle of the woods.
You don't have to explain that to your audience, but you definitely can't have a Russian because that would require too much explanation.
I mean, that's a pretty big one. You would have to have a whole scene explaining why he was tracking the X-Men or how he got to where they were. I'd assume.
I guess it's supposed to be they're both heading toward the same place, but how do you get there on fucking foot?
Well, actually, they don't know where they're going yet because.
So what are they doing there at all?
Yeah, exactly. They don't know yet.
It's worse.
The only thing I can use to explain it is that Magneto was trying to get to the X-Men to get to Charles to work together on this, but that's the only explanation in my headcanon I can come up with. But how he would have known where they were at Bobby's place? Maybe he was listening to the radio scanner and heard that they were at Bobby's parents' house. I don't know. So he's got like a police scanner. He's got Toad like sitting on back.
Boston.
Well, I remember Charles mentioning one of the students' parents are in Boston and decided to check it out, and luckily enough, the first one.
And think about the distance between Boston and Alberta.
Yeah.
Magneto was somewhere along that perfect line.
Movies.
You gotta give this movie such a bigger rating than it deserves, Andre.
Yeah, damn right I am.
Am I. I mean, you can check my Letterboxd right now to see what rating I'm giving.
Well, I haven't rated it on Letterboxd yet, but I will probably do that after this. So then we then they have a little powwow, hang out, and learn about what I shouldn't have used that word. I'm sorry. A little hangout where they kind of compare notes, and Stryker tells them that Stryker's been interrogating him. That they're building another Cerebro. And that he knew about it because he helped Charles build it back in the day. So that explains all that stuff. But then they're trying to figure out where they got to go to find him because Stryker did manage to get 6 kids, I think they say, out of the school.
Yeah,
the rest had gotten
like
away. So they got to go find him.
At least 3 Arties.
3 what?
Arties.
Oh, yeah, 3 Arties. You got 6 Arties at the school. It's a lot of Arties.
The Artie to Leech ratio is just off the charts.
That's what they're studying. Look at these Arties. So much
Brian
Artie.
Singer, the X-Men's nothing but Magneto, Xavier, and Arties and Leeches. He doesn't care about anything.
Yeah. So then they decide they need to, use Jean's powers to try to go into memory and figure out where he's from. Of course, Wolverine assumes that it's him that they need to do that to. But Charles tried before, but then Magneto. I do like this little connection that they have where Magneto keeps saying like it's not about you. Like this is like the third time.
The last movie. It's almost like the exact same plot as the last movie.
It's called a callback.
Wolverine thinks
it's called a callback.
When your whole movie's a callback, it's not called a callback.
It's not the whole movie, dude.
It's not, and it isn't because this time Wolverine is the like linchpin, basically. Like this is like it all involves stuff from his past, blah blah blah.
This should have been the Wolverine.
But it's kind of coincidental. Like Wolverine being there isn't related to Stryker's plan. Stryker didn't even know he was there until Stryker attacked the school. So it just happenstancely fell backwards into him having running into Magneto again. But Magneto played Wolverine, but Wolverine played nowhere in his plans. If anything, Wolverine's involvement is what undoes his plans because they have enough connection with information they get from this and when they get to everything else that but anyway. So Magneto,
how Stryker can't resist Wolverine. He like comes to the door. He's like, "Oh, who's come home? Let him in. This is a good one. Like, I love this little clawed bastard."
Well, you are not quite there yet, but they decide. Magneto says, "I'm not talking about you." They're talking about Nightcrawler because Nightcrawler was taken there and reprogrammed. So they go into his brain and find out he's Alkali Lake and that they have a secret facility under the facility Wolverine was at before. And then they decide to go there and come up with a plan. The plan, of course, sending in Mystique as Wolverine to go right to the front gate and try to get let in.
When you're Wolverine, though, you go all the way to Alberta, Alkali Lake.
Yeah, I know. And then you just missed it. You missed it by that much.
You think you would have rapped on some walls or something?
Or you think they would have. You think they would have secure, like if Stryker's base is there and someone's like, we have footage of Wolverine wander around up top, he'd be like pique his interest, right? Enough that he would probably get involved, or at least they try to take him down.
Another plot hole.
Yeah. Or maybe it's deeper. Like maybe he didn't go that far into the facility. I don't know. I guess I don't need to explain it. I didn't write it.
The wrong lake.
Although I do like that Stryker looks at him and says, I recognize my own work. Something I never forget is my own work. Kill whatever that is. And then because he recognizes right away that it's not Wolverine. So then, with the ruse blown. It was slick. I like that. Then it just becomes a big battle, basically, with them all fighting all the guards. Cyclops fighting Jean, who was brainwashed. And eventually Jean manages to break him of that. Logan gets in a fight with... earlier on when they were talking to Xavier, we see Lady Deathstrike like looking at her hands and kind of coming out of the brainwashing, and then Stryker puts more goo in her neck, and she snaps back to it. But
Xavier's like, for a mutant hater, you keep interesting company.
Yeah. So, but to him, they're weapons, right? He doesn't. So you think you want to keep a few of them around, as weapons against other countries?
I have headcanon. What turned him from like these are useful tools when he realizes at some point off screen that a mutant can be born anywhere, so it can't be something that the US can exclusively use to like
that's a great point
overseas.
That is a great point. That's a really good point. So then Wolverine is a big fight with her. Just before that fight, he does have a face-to-face with Stryker for a second because Wolverine comes across where he was made, basically. It has flashed of memories of being injected with the adamantium, and he sees the liquid adamantium. And Stryker says the problem with adamantium is you need to keep it hot to keep it at a certain temperature, because once it cools, it becomes unbreakable. So, they have this big pot of it stand like this, it's Chekhov's gun. Once you bring it in, they're going to use it. So then, and he says, I used to think you were the only one, but you're the only animal of your kind, but I found another. And then we see Deathstrike. She has
I was wrong.
Adamantium like fingernails that come out that are long spike things. They get in a big fight.
She has like her whole forearms.
This fight actually was pretty cool. I thought like it wasn't.
Yeah, it is.
Long,
and I also
it's
think when
cool.
Mystique fights the guards when she reveals that she's Mystique, there's some cool flippy action.
Yeah, she does do some pretty cool flippy.
Okay, I'm gonna burn another X point then. I'm burning a lot of X points, but like, why does Mystique have like friction powers in these movies? She has
she's
like
so slippery.
Well, and the opposite, like she can stick to walls, so she can like increase her friction
because
if she wants to jump and stick to walls.
Because she can change her surface density.
But then, like,
she can make it all patty, or she can make it all super slippy. Yeah, she can make it super slippy. She can make herself have like virtually no detail whatsoever.
Yeah, because she makes her hands
catching scales.
Yeah, okay, all right, you've convinced me. But it looks silly when she goes sliding under that door and gives them.
No, she gives the finger, like, brother. She gives the finger.
Like,
how do you think effects work, Davan? That's what they do. They probably pulled her with a rope and then use security to take it out.
Better. Like you can make things look better. Like there's
the middle finger lampshades.
Okay,
there's a difference between me doing some special effects for a movie or like Tom Savini.
Okay, Davan, your homework.
There's levels to this shit.
Your homework is to go home and watch the Jet Li movie, The One, and you tell me if the special effects and the fighting in that is better than this. Just because that was around the same time.
Thing, like
it was a big special effects movie.
Dragon,
it was no. You don't remember this movie? Jet Li plays a guy. It's one that it's one we almost brought up for the multiverse episode because it's a guy who there's a criminal from another reality that looks just like him, also played by Jet Li, who's killing all of his other alternates from different parallel universes because he gets stronger. It's kind of like Highlander. And then so this one guy from one world has to fight his double from another world. I feel like Jason Statham's in it too early when he was young, but it's a big multiversal fight thing and it's full of kung fu and special effects because I don't think it's probably much better than this. And that movie was all that.
Everything in the era was really floaty. Everything.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, this was the Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon sort of thing. So we did get a lot of that at the time. But anyway, so we basically learned during all this earlier on during the fighting thing that the whole plan is they're building another Cerebro. They're brainwashing Xavier with the aid of Jason to have him use Cerebro to. Oh, this comes up in the talk. Yeah, I feel like I glossed over a few things, but this comes up in the talk earlier where they say that Xavier's so powerful he could kill everyone with Cerebro, and that's when they know what's happening. So Cox Stryker's going to use drugged Xavier with the aid of his lobotomized son and the Cerebro unit they built at their facility to have him kill all the mutants on the planet by using the helmet. Magneto has the helmet that protects him from that, so that comes into play a little bit. There's also a nice moment where we see him interacting with Pyro on the plane on the way here, where Pyro is kind of dismissive of his own powers because he can't create fire. And Magneto has a great line where he says, "You're a god among ants. Don't let anyone ever tell you different." Because he has such a high view of mutants over humans that no matter what your ability is, you're better than them.
What's your real name?
Yeah, and he says his real name is Pyro. He does John's his human name.
That's cool.
Yeah, I do like that.
Oh no, I'll wait till we get into the. We'll get into it about Magneto.
But can you
imagine 2 Magnetos in these movies, and they're both Ian McKellen? It depends, like what line he's giving.
Could you imagine? Oh, there's 2 in the next movie. They're drastically different characters for the same reason. But the idea that like imagine if Magneto got his wish, so the whole world were mutants. We're all mutants. None of us have regular names anymore. All our names are like names we chose to match our powers. How many Pyros do you think are going to be running around? Like, what's the mail system going to look like? It's like, okay, there's 9. Everyone's going to pick a cool name. There's like, all right, well, there's 10 million Pyros on the planet.
We've been over this. There wouldn't be 10 million Pyros. In Magneto's plan, everybody just gets slippery water power.
Well, we don't know that for sure. That might have been Kelly's specific.
We know it.
Leech-like power, I guess. I don't know what he turns into. Like goo? Is he Jello? Goo powers. He turns into a fluke worm. That's his power. Yeah, it's not. I mean, some mutants. It's a gamble. Some people get
a gross
to live forever.
Man.
Some people get to live forever, and some people become jellyfish men. That's just how they roll the dice.
Xavier thing. This Xavier plan for him to use Xavier's power, and the fact that this works if this is the last movie, but if you plan on doing franchise after this is kind of a bad plot to do, I feel like, because everyone in the world now knows that Xavier can do this because they all feel it when he's.
Well, they don't know it's Xavier.
No, they're never giving an explanation for it.
Yeah, they do actually explain it
like,
later.
Certainly, some humans will put this together, so it's like it'll be known by some humans. So
the president doesn't even know who Xavier is at this point because Xavier introduced himself later.
Well, Xavier gives him like a file that explains a lot of stuff. It must like cover at least kind of what happened.
Yeah, I would assume so. But
for me, though, it's just everyone should be gunning for Xavier all the time. Every X-Men movie after this.
Well, he does kill all the X-Men and make the world worse in the Logan. So maybe they should have killed him.
Yeah, Logan picks it up again.
So during all of this this fighting, as I mentioned, all the Wolverine manages to pierce Deathstrike with the injector for the adamantium, filling her with adamantium, and you see it running out of her eyes, killing her, and she falls into the
adamantium.
Yeah, her eyes were like bright blue throughout the movie, but then they turn back to like a normal human color, like her natural brown, and then she looks and the tears come out of her eyes, and she hardens and falls in. Which, like, we know she didn't want to be there. She was brainwashed just like the rest of them. So she's incredibly tragic.
There is like a shot of like Wolverine reacting in like an aghast way, like,
yeah,
I've done this awful thing, but it does get brushed off very quickly.
Very quickly.
I mean, when she sinks into the tank, her head hits the bottom, and it sounds like a bowling ball. Like,
yeah.
Boom.
Yeah. Well, I think it's to show how heavy she is with all that.
Oh yeah, with the adamantium, but she goes out in a brutal way, man. Like,
so
her internal organs got surrounded by molten hot fucking.
Yeah. And even if you had I don't know how deep the healing factors work in the movie, so maybe you're still kind of alive and you're just stuck in a watery grave. Just
Who knows?
You could show up as like a Reaver, like in a Cyborg in a future movie.
Yeah, that would have been fun.
All that too. Like,
I mean, didn't they kill Wolverine in the comics by covering him in adamantium for a while?
Yeah, well, he was never dead in there.
So then we got Old Man Logan for a while. So then during the fight, damage happens to the structure of the facility, which we learned is underwater of the dam in Alkali Lake. So being shown that Stryker's seen that the dam could collapse, he looks at the pressure and sees that it's getting higher. He tries
Jean
to make
does that with a psychic.
Yeah, when she's fighting Cyclops. Yeah, I couldn't remember his
likely sit in a crater of limestone.
Well, they did actually mention her powers are becoming a little ever since the first X-Men movie. Her powers are becoming unstable. So Stryker goes to leave, and meanwhile, Xavier, who in his psychic visions being sent to him by Jason, he's seeing a little girl or boy, it's hard to tell, with different colored eyes that represents Jason. Walking him through through his own facility. Like in Xavier's mind, he thinks he's looking for friends for them because of what's being done to him, but actually what they're doing is having eventually all of the mutants start being hit with the beam from Cerebro. But they're on the other side of the locked door. They can't get in which Nightcrawler uses powers to bring Storm in. It's kind of a leap of blind faith, as we do learn that he's into God stuff and he's very religious. To go through the door because he can't see what's on the other side. He might teleport in a wall. So it's fairly safe to say if you can teleport 3 feet ahead of the wall, you're probably not going to be in a wall, right? Or 2 feet. So anyway,
they would have added more stakes for that. Like they keep saying how he can't do this.
That is true.
Yeah, it's an underwhelming sort of like.
Maybe if his hand was in the wall, and then we got like some violent
or somebody
or finger or something.
To teleport somebody else.
Yeah,
and they end up with a foot in the wall or something. Like just add some stakes. But.
That's fair. That's a good point. So they can't break Jason's hold on him. I don't know why they just didn't kill Jason or at least knock him out or punch him or something.
They say
just push him off the.
Yeah, he's on a wheelchair. He can't do anything.
If it was abrupt, it would kill Xavier.
That's true. They do say that. So Storm uses her powers to. There's one quick shift here. So Magneto, when he's in there fucking everyone up, he goes into the facility, and actually Jason is already dispatched, isn't he, at this point?
No, Jason's there. Magneto points to his helmet, like.
So they can't do anything, and then uses Mystique, disguised Stryker, to come in and give Jason other direction, which is to attack humans instead of mutants, essentially killing 7 billion people, which is there's 6.5 billion people on the planet, which is monstrous. Like this is where I'm like, this Magneto is a monster. Like he's
yes, but. Mm-hmm. It was almost done to his people a second before.
Fair enough.
He's just like, I can't give these people another chance.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
They're full of strikers, baby. Got to get them out of here.
So then the beam attacking the people goes to the humans, and they realize what's going on. Then they try to get in, but the door is closed, and they get in the other side. Storm uses her powers to make an ice storm and snap Xavier out of what he's doing, and therefore kind of saving the day. And then escaping before the dam explodes. But while this is happening, Stryker is leaving, but Wolverine gets ahead of him. And they have I love this interaction between them. It's it's the best scene
I've
of the
seen
movie.
my cat again.
Yeah, no problem. What, do your cat eat every hour?
How often do you feed your cat?
Cat's got diabetes.
No, he eats a tiny
Man,
bit.
is his name Wilford?
Wilford Brimley. He's got type 2 diabetes. So,
Diabetes.
yeah, and this is where Wolverine pins him with his claws to the side of the plane. Stryker says, you came to me. You act like I made you into this, but you came to me asking to be part of this program. And he says, you were always an animal, Logan. I just gave you claws, which I thought was, I mean, he had bone claws already, but I do think it's a great, I love that line. And, it does put some seeds as to not knowing who Logan is more. It makes you a little more interested in finding that out. So Wolverine chains him to the plane, says if we all dying here, you're dying too, and goes off to go help everyone. While this is happening, Magneto comes across, after he changes the plans, he comes across Stryker, and then fucks him up further. I don't know why Magneto doesn't just kill him, but Magneto, because at this point that happens before the shift, like when Wolverine puts him to the plane. But then when all the humans are being attacked, Magneto comes out and sees him being infected by Xavier's powers and says something along the lines of, I can't remember what he says exactly. Something like, you're going to die here or something, or you're never get a chance to do this again. And then I don't know why Magneto just didn't just straight up kill him. But then as the X-Men are escaping later, the Wolverine's holding one of the kids. They're all getting to the plane, the jet who Rogue is trying to fly so they can help them get out of there. Wolverine sees Stryker chained to a rock a little further down in the woods and goes up to him, and Stryker offers him answers, says, if you save me, I'll give you all the answers. He goes, would you rather, who has all the answers, Logan, me or that beast, that creature that you're holding, that little kid, which is the tongue kid from another Artie. And then Wolverine says, I'll take my chances with him, and leaves, which is kind of bringing full circle. The family he has now is more important than answers to him. So for now anyway. So then we see the flood coming in as the dam breaks.
No answers that way. Wolverine in the next immediate shot is a picture of Xavier. So they're hinting at Xavier can still give him answers if he chooses.
Possibly so. Or, Fox is like, someday we'll make a Wolverine movie because he's popular and we'll figure that out then. Which they did, and it's horrible.
Both of these movies have been Wolverine.
So then all of the dam breaks, all the water comes in. We see Stryker get washed away, kind of. We don't really see it, but we see it just descending on him. Jean stays behind and locks them all in the plane to hold back the water so they can get out in time. Cyclops, of course, has a hard time with that, but she made her choice, and she speaks through Xavier, saying she's sorry, but that's what she has to do to save everybody.
It's not great.
It's kind of glossed over.
They even have to kind of talk about it later in the movie.
They even say, "Why didn't she do it from the plane?" And he says she made her choice.
Exactly.
Yeah, which is like,
but that doesn't
really explain.
anything.
Yeah, I know. I agree with you on that.
No, it's.
So she gets washed away, and then they fly to safety. Earlier on, I forgot to mention during the campout scene with Magneto, Logan came on her and kissed her, and she said, "Don't make me do this." And he says, "Do what?" And she means make this decision because she doesn't want to.
Shut his brain down.
She's happy with Cyclops and doesn't want him to make her have to hurt him or change her life or whatever. So later on,
the way you catch keys is just a big flex.
Yeah, I saw the way you caught those keys, and it's not working.
Cyclops didn't even know it was a debate. He's like, "She chose you." Like, what?
Yeah,
I know. This is a question. What are you talking about?
Charles says they immediately have to fly to Washington.
What?
Charles says they have to immediately fly to Washington, where because the president's giving a speech about what's going to happen because what happened with the attack on him.
Bad too.
Then he freezes the room midway through his speech on TV, explains that Stryker is the one who.
Xavier would freeze them before the whole thing started because now he's done it mid-speech, so now it's not this secret.
Well, they didn't get there in time. They just got there when they got there. I mean, that's the explanation. Whether it's a good one or not is the explanation.
And you just don't do the plan. But I don't know. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's better to stop him before he says we're going to put all mutants in camps, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess.
So, because then it's hard
They're
for him
gonna
to
know he was
backpedal.
coerced by mutants because there's like
Well, they
this
don't.
big TV glitch.
Well,
and
yeah,
then
they
that's
glitch
gonna
out
need
the screen.
explanation.
They freeze the room. The X-Men appear. Magneto or Xavier explains that they're mutants and they stopped what was going on. They give him a sheet, which is all these files that
It was a live
Stryker had.
broadcast.
Well, no, they
Yeah,
glitch out. They glitch out the TV screen.
People at home just see it go black. That's fine.
Yeah.
Storm does something with electricity.
And
Yeah.
so the president is left to decide. We don't see what he says, but instead of deciding to turn this attack into a reason to mutants, he has to answer for his own. It also
There's
like
also,
it also
I'll
seems.
get into this X points.
Well, I
I
just
should
want to
write these
say
down.
it seems very much to me like it does seem like righteous, and they're like, well, you guys sent the government to attack us, chained us, tried to use us as a weapon. Like you did this, not us. We stopped it. And then, but it also seems like we can come in here and fuck you up anytime we want. So
Well,
maybe
that's what it
Professor X says it's not a threat. Don't worry. We're here to like clear the air, basically.
Yeah.
But then it ends with Wolverine going, "We'll be watching."
Yeah.
That's a threat, sir. That's a threat.
And also the guy that attacked
The
him
guy who's
before is in the
trying to
room
stab
with
him
them. Like, why
Yeah,
wouldn't they
he's
leave
waving to him.
Nightcrawler in the ship and just say that this might complicate things a little more? Maybe we should.
100% a threat. It's 100%.
So anyway, then we see Xavier teaching the book The Once and Future King to his students, and we see Cyclops having trouble dealing with what happened to Jean, and Wolverine saying
Colossus
that
is very, very remedial because he's a 19-year-old man in a class with 10-year-olds.
that is true. He does look like a full ass
Everybody's
man.
like waist high to him.
He's like
They're,
special
peeking
needs.
in
That's
the
why he's
door
in
to
the
see what people are talking about.
He's
Colossus
like
is
he's
like
like
this
special
little-
needs. That's what they have in the class. Like he just had this like he's on a different level. And he's just running around beating the shit out of like adults with a.
Yeah, I'm from Canada, and they think I'm slow, eh?
Maybe
It's
he's
like
got that.
but Russian.
Maybe he's got that Robin Williams Jack disease, like that movie Jack. Maybe
Oh,
he
yeah,
just four
part
times
of
fast.
mutant power. Yeah,
That
it
must
actually
be
is just 10 years old.
It is just maybe Jack is an X-Men movie. So anyway, I think we
The
can make
worst
this
one.
connection. So we see before Xavier's about to start, he senses something and looks off in the distance and smiles. Someone says, "Are you okay?" And he says, "I think is everything okay?" And he says, "I think that it will be." And then we see the lake that was made after the dam burst, and we see the shape of the Phoenix flying under it or above it. It's kind of hard to tell. So
It's coming out of the water.
end of movie.
but-
You think it's swimming? It's swimming under the water. Yeah, it does kind of look like that. End of movie. Oh, and then we get the same speech from the beginning of X-Men 1 by Jean Grey
by Jean.
overlaying this. So yeah, end of
Which
film.
is annoying because they use like this is something we talked about on my Star Trek podcast where we had a professional doctor of biology on the show,
Oh,
and he's
Dr. Bio.
annoyed about how they misuse the word evolution and everything and what
Yeah,
evolving
they do.
is.
Yeah, but
They
that's
do that in
central to
this.
the
That's
whole
like what
X-Men.
Jean Grey is talking about is not evolution. That's mutation.
Yeah.
Nothing they ever talk about in this movie is evolution, and they keep using the
But
word
that's
evolution.
that's your problem with the X-Men franchise, then.
Yeah, they do that a lot. It's
No.
not just in these movies.
No, it's not just, but like it's very jarring when Jean Grey says it because they're just talking about it feels like she's talking about her leap forward personally as Phoenix because you see the Phoenix.
I
And
do
she
think
starts to do
they're
that
saying that like she's mutant +1, basically. Like
Yeah, she's
the
evolving,
next
but that's
step.
not what evolving is.
No, but
Like,
she
they're
no
being-
she's not. She well, we learned in the third one that Professor X and actually went in and put in a damper to keep her from turning into this super duper mutant. But I think what the end of the movie is saying is that she was always the next step. She's mutant tomorrow.
Yeah.
Tomorrow's mutant.
Well,
Which
that
at
was
the time,
X6,
when this
as
came out, I
cover would
preferred
have
it.
believe.
I preferred that to the comics Phoenix because for some reason in 2003, 2001, I wanted X-Men to be mutants. That's it. I didn't want cyborgs. I didn't
right
want
back.
space aliens.
I
So
see.
when they did a mutant Deathstrike, I was like, okay, now Deathstrike's cool. She's not some cornball.
So did you like
cyborg.
organic webs? Were you one of those organic
I
web
did like
boosters?
organic webs. I
Oh,
did.
no.
And I'll tell you
Dave.
why. I don't anymore. I still do. Because
What?
like without the webs, there's very little to be like he has spider powers. I guess he sticks to walls, but like spiders aren't famously strong. Spiders don't have.
Spiders also shoot webs out of somewhere is very different.
That's the. poetic license. I don't know. It gave him an actual spider thing that was like connected to the spider itself. Other than like you're asking an audience to buy two things: that a guy was bitten by a radioactive spider that gave him spider abilities, and apart from that, he's a super genius whose one contribution to the world is inventing a spider web. That's two big asks at once, and it's weird that we've gotten to a place where a mainstream audience can accept that. It's crazy to
in
me.
one sentence. Yeah, I made it myself. Done.
It's insane. It's insane. It's a comic booky thing that works in comics, and the audience now has been primed. You can ask a mainstream audience to accept anything with superheroes, and they'll roll with it now. Yeah. In 2002, it was a different game, and I get why they were like.
But I think they would have. I think that was just an assumption made by studios. Like, these audience can't handle superheroes. It's like, okay, executives, you're right.
No Spider-Man movie has ever benefited from a scene where you see him invent the thing. It just brings it down. They've only done it once, and that was Amazing Spider-Man 1, and even that was convoluted. Like, he didn't really invent the web things. He found them at the Oscorp.
Yeah, they never explain it in the Marvel one. He just says he made them, basically, and that's it.
That's what I'm saying. That was perfect.
Yeah, but we never got an origin. If you saw Tom Holland's Spider-Man origin, you'd be sitting there going like, "Come on."
Yeah.
Oh, we didn't need.
He gets spider powers, and then the next week he's like, "You know what?
The whole movie should be him just developing the webs.
Even the 90s
at the end,
series
he finishes that music to win.
The 90s animated series, he goes, I always thought that probably the spider gave me the knowledge to create the chemicals, because like I never invented anything else. I mean, I'm smart, but I'm not going to the moon. I'm not Iron Man.
Well, the comics make him that now.
At this slightly different. It's not about, yes, he got bitten by a spider, but it's not so much important the fact that he has all these abilities that pertain to the abilities of a spider. It's like a Batman thing. He's Spider-Man because he dresses like a spider.
No,
he has spider powers.
That's secondary.
Yes, of course he has spider powers.
That's second. I'm saying that I like.
That's not why he calls himself Spider-Man.
Because it's more spider-y. It's the really spideriest thing the spider gave him. But my thing with like doubting that a mainstream audience in 2003, 2002 could accept those things at once is like, okay, it's Terminator. And yes, this robot came back in time from the future when we have time travel and robots and blah, blah, blah. And also he's got a magic wand. What? Magic? What? Why is there a magic wand in this? You already told me that there's a time traveling robot and now he's got magic?
I want to see this movie.
Spider, the power should come from the spider that bit him. There shouldn't be an extra thing where he's like, and then on the weekend I invented these. Like, it's silly, it's stupid, and we're at a place now where we can accept it because it's been around so long. But it's bizarre. It's bizarre.
Well, you can't be chained to the source material because like they have to make a movie. Like on my other podcast, I talked to someone that was involved with marketing and movies for a very long time recently, and he was saying, like, you need to there's a difference between a good adaptation and a good movie. Hopefully, something can be both, but not. It's tough sometimes, right? Like, I mean, there are some movies that are really great adaptations, not necessarily great movies. So you got to walk a line because you're not just appealing to the comic fans that know all the comic stuff. Because honestly, in the grand scheme of things, especially now, most of the audience aren't comic fans.
I don't know. The most direct adaptation in a Marvel movie was also the best one, I think, which is
Winter Soldier.
Yeah, was it just an
adaptation?
No, it wasn't direct. It wasn't direct. We didn't have time travel with Dr. Faustus and all that stuff. We didn't get all that stuff.
It's not that direct. It's all the crazy elements are taken out. The thing doesn't ultimately end with Captain America getting struck with a time bullet.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say.
It's just like, okay, like Superman comes down, you're like, oh wow, what's your deal? Well, I came from a dying planet called Krypton, and because of the yellow sun, I have all these wonderful powers. Oh, you can fly because of the yellow sun? Oh no, those are a pair of super boots I got from a what? Why are there two things? You only need one fucking thing.
He flies because of super boots?
No, he doesn't.
But I'm saying that would be the mechanical web shooters. The only exception, and this is me like totally contradicting what I just said, is all the best X-Men have an extra thing.
Yeah,
beyond being a mutant. It's like you're a mutant, but you went through this experiment. You're a mutant, but always you're a mutant, but you're a mutant, but you're a master thief.
Yeah.
Did you notice? Well, I'll make it as the next point. Are we on
All
next
right,
point?
let's move on.
Anyway, that was a
Move on to
spirited
our next-
discussion about Sam
Oh.
Raimi's Spider-Man.
It sure was. Well, we'll get to that.
Each of us will have to look into his own heart and decide.
You gotta decide here, fellas. Who wants to decide first?
I don't know how we should do it because we know it's going to go like. Well,
Dave,
no,
you go
I
ahead.
might outdo Andre.
Dave, you go ahead.
Let's go André first.
All right, I gave the first one an 8. This is better, so it's a 9.
This would be easy, so all right, let's do that. All right.
I mean, it has its issues for sure, but honestly, like as a fun, like carrying on what they did in the first one and trying to juggle as many characters as they did and have a cohesive story and do what they do, I think they did a pretty good job, and I really enjoyed.
And
this film.
there was no handbook to how to condense all this stuff down into a superhero team movie where there's like 90 different powers.
yeah, exactly. And I feel like
there are
as
certain guests of our show that I think would disagree with that statement.
even adaptation, well, yeah, but there's no.
They did this better in a cartoon in 20 minutes.
No, they did it better in a
No,
cartoon
they
that had
didn't.
100
Yes.
episodes.
They did it over the
No,
course of a
it's done
season.
better in
Yeah.
the pilot. The pilot is 40 minutes, and it is better in explaining the X-Men and building.
Oh man,
a world.
would you imagine what the budget for that pilot, those first 2 episodes as a live
Yeah,
action
the-
movie
would
would
have
have been
been
in
The
this
Giant
movie?
Sentinels.
Yeah.
It would have been awesome.
But yeah, I
Yeah.
to my score, I also gave it a 9.
Yeah.
I think it was a 9
really
when it
enjoyed
came
this
out,
movie.
and I think it's a 9 today. I
I'm
actually think it watches better now than it did 10 years ago.
I'm surprised how much I enjoyed
Oh, I
it.
disagree.
I'm surprised how much I enjoyed it again because I thought I would have more umbrage with stuff because I liked it a lot as a kid. But there was
The
also a
last
desert of horror movies Marvel movies when I was a kid. Like you didn't get a lot of superhero movies, right?
No.
This is the first big one aside from Blade, and then the DC ones from the 70s and 80s.
The last time I watched it, it was like the thick of the MCU's popularity. Like this was like Marvel showed you this is how you do it. So when I watched it the last time, the tone difference was really like goofy to me. Like, but watching it now that I'm like so thoroughly sick of the MCU formula, I found it like very refreshing the way they handled things.
Yeah, I did too. All right, so Davin's giving it like a 4. I'm gonna guess. What are you gonna do?
It didn't hold up as I loved this movie back in the day, but for me, I was just bothered by too many things now. Yeah.
See
I found more choices I didn't like.
This is
like,
the root of the issues I have with your when you talk about these things. I much prefer like what you just said is the reason for most of your issues. But what you usually say is this is garbage, that sucked, this guy didn't know what he was doing, and all this sort of stuff. But at the root of it is like it's just you were bothered by too many changes to what it was, the source material, which is fine.
Because this is a
No,
tight script.
No, that's such a like.
This
Well,
is
that's
a
what you're
really
saying.
tight script. It is what you're saying in this instance. I can't speak to all the time. This is a tight script, and I don't think you can knock it.
It's not. It just, well,
But because it's not the X-Men Davin
tight.
wants, it's all bad. Like
It's
or
not-
mostly
no.
those.
Well, I explained things
Cyclops-
to you that have nothing to do with the X-Men that I have a problem with this movie. Like you said, Dave, like the MCU, you're sick of that formula, so it made this movie better. The things that I am sick about the I'm sick of in the MCU were in this movie. What I'm sick of in the US MCU is everybody being related. That happened in this movie, so it
That's
just made
comics,
this movie
man.
worse.
That's
for
the
me.
X-Men.
That
That's
is
the
comics,
X-Men.
though.
The X-Men was like the original superhero franchise of like, here's my brother I've never mentioned before. Like Havoc. Like, oh yeah, I've got a brother. I don't know why this hasn't come up until now, but yeah,
And
my
he's
brother's
And
got
he's also
powers and
like a
stuff, too.
villain, part of another team. Like he's not just a guy that pumps gas somewhere. He's got to be also a superhero.
Yeah, and
And also working for the government or doing something
then
else.
Mr. Sinister comes along and is like, oh, you've got a third brother. And your
It's also
father is a space pirate.
when we reviewed X-Men 1, I'm like it's just a Magneto, Xavier, Wolverine movie, and Andre was just like, yeah, well, they just wait. This is only the first movie. They just did the same thing again in this movie. It's like they had 2 movies now, and they didn't bother building.
No, I
on it.
disagree. There was lots of storylines.
How many
with
more
Rogue and-
movies before they
Yeah.
actually give us and not just a Magneto?
Well, at least one more.
Xavier Wolverine movie.
Actually, 2 more because there's a Wolverine one.
I just don't
Wolverine's
think
not
you
in
can
first
find
class, except for, like,
something
a
that
list.
does the superhero team thing, even minus superhero, in a movie until Avengers.
The
one
Avengers. The
properly.
Avengers did it. Yeah.
So they
But
didn't know
the
how to do it.
Avengers,
So
the Avengers only works because they had movies introducing you to each of them first.
yes.
So
I
like,
don't think that's
even
true.
then, I
don't
was
think
sure
that's the
that-
only
no, it's
reason.
100% true. If they made that movie and they didn't make
agree with
any other movies, you wouldn't know what the fuck was going on.
Yeah,
Like,
I
who's
agree.
Iron Man? Why is that guy got a spacesuit? Who's the guy in the Cat and Mare costume? You wouldn't know.
And,
It
and
takes,
someone
like,
would
2
need to be
minutes
the
to
ultimate
explain.
No, it
Wolverine
would not,
character,
Devin. You're
basically.
crazy.
You would, yeah. I think so too. At least
It
at
would-
the time. I think now you could just jump into something the way the Guardians did. But with
Yes,
Avengers,
yes.
Yeah, exactly. Guardians did it. So like, there's no reason they couldn't do it with the Avengers.
Yeah,
with
but
characters
they're
that everybody knew. They
they're
didn't need to
aliens.
explain
They're
the Hulk
aliens.
in 2 movies.
They're
They didn't need
aliens.
to
They're aliens.
explain-
So if they have powers or abilities or are different, we know why, because they're aliens. It's defined by them.
2003. Let's take that date. Everyone knew who the Hulk was. Everyone knew who Captain.
No, you
everyone knew
can't
what
make a
those characters
movie
did.
based on the fact that the entire audience is going to know everything about the Hulk, because we love comics,
You
but a
don't
lot
need to know everything about the Hulk. Mainstream audience knows that he.
Devin,
gets
the
angry.
average person
It's
if you
strong.
talk to the average guy in the street and ask him extra questions beyond who's the Hulk, beyond Bruce Banner, they probably couldn't tell you much.
You don't need
Like,
more
they have
than
to make they have to make movies that appeal to them. No, you're just saying they don't need it, that they know enough about the Hulk. You don't need to explain who the Hulk is.
that. Exactly. They
They
know
don't.
he gets angry
They
and
don't.
gets strong. You don't think people knew that based on the entire show
Not the
he
whole
had on
world.
TV for years and years.
yeah, I don't think so
Yeah.
either.
No.
you
not
can't
the
do
whole
things
world.
unless the whole world understands it.
No,
That's
no,
what-
what? No, you're
and
you're,
I
you're
could
saying the
argue- I think the
opposite.
Hulk-
For any movie is the whole world.
No,
The
you
Hulk-
need to identify the characters and tell you who they are and what their deal is. You can't just assume everybody knows everything about them because they're in comic books. People don't.
You don't have to assume.
Yeah, you're saying they should. You're saying they did, like the Avengers movie. If you go watch the Avengers movie and they made none of the other movies, that everyone would be able to
Saying
understand it,
This
and it would have made $1
this
billion.
everyone, but I would think is actually more of a target audience that does know this shit. But everyone in the world knows more about the Hulk than they did about Groot.
My wife certainly
Everyone
doesn't.
complained. She didn't know more about the Incredible Hulk than she knew about Groot. Bullshit.
Probably not.
Bullshit, Andre.
Probably not.
Bullshit. Has
She
she
didn't
ever
read
heard
comics.
of the Incredible Hulk?
She doesn't
Has
read
she
comics.
ever heard of the Incredible Hulk? Has
This
she
is a
ever
very
heard of it?
different show than when it was the
A
animated
green
series.
thing called the Hulk. Has
You're
she ever
fighting.
heard of a green thing called the Hulk?
Yes.
The
Okay.
answer
Sure.
is yes.
Yeah.
And has
But
she
the
ever
Hulk is
heard
the
of a
best
wooden guy?
example. The
before
Hulk
that
is the
movie?
one that had
No.
a show in the 80s. Nobody knew who Iron Man was. Nobody knew who Captain America
He had a
was.
show too for like a long time. He had
Oh,
several
fuck.
shows before.
No,
What, the
Nobody
Matt
saw
Salinger movie from the 80s? Yeah, that or 90s. That
Like,
a lot of
these
people pay
also
attention
ran
to.
Reagan.
that.
I saw
But,
him with
okay,
Iron Man.
here-
He had,
here's
like,
my
several
example of like
cartoons.
I'm not even ultimately saying that I know for a fact that an audience couldn't have parsed out the Avengers and it couldn't have been a big hit. It wouldn't have been as big a hit, obviously, without the movies leading into
Well,
it.
it wouldn't have had the
But
budget it
I
had if the other
do
movies didn't
know
come
that there
before
was
it.
nothing down to show that an audience would roll with that much. Because you look at Star Trek, the original series, you have a whole crew, a whole deck full of characters. Every movie is Kirk, Spock, and Bones. Kirk, Spock, and Bones, villain of the week. Kirk, Spock, Bones, villain
Their
of the week.
formula. That was the formula going in. And
Yeah,
that's
but
really
that's the same thing. Okay, we've got Wolverine, we've got Professor X. We know what these guys are about. We got Wolverine. He's discovering it new. I mean, Professor X and Magneto. We know what these guys are about. They're a dichotomy. Wolverine's the guy, the audience surrogate who's discovering all this. So he's the one we followed. He's just the one who's gonna. I would prefer it too if like Cyclops had shit to do in the end of the movie. If Storm had ever used her powers in a fight. But I can put myself very easily in the seat of the person who has to make an X-Men movie and is like, we got to make a ton of money. Audiences have to be able to follow it. What do we do? There has to be a main hero. There has to be the guy who saves the day in the end, who gets the final word with the villain. It's
I'm
of the
gonna-
era.
It is better than the last one, so I'm gonna
We
give
still
it
don't have a number yet.
Here we go. What we got?
7 seems too high. 6 or 7. I'm gonna give
Okay.
7.
That's fair. That's fair.
7.
That's fair. I would accept a 6 from you, actually.
If I were
100%.
a guy who didn't like superheroes, I bet that's the number I'd be giving it.
I
We
don't
should
know.
have a guy who knows nothing about, like, somebody who's never read a comic, who doesn't care about comics. If we could rope one of them into this, that would be very interesting because he would probably answer a lot of speculation we have.
I'll say 7 just for the Wolverine protects the school scene and the Magneto breaking out of prison scene alone.
I really like that striker scene at the end too, with Wolverine and him having the interaction.
It's insane we're quibbling this much over 2 points. I expected you to give it a 4. That's
No, yeah,
No, because
this is much higher than I would have
the
expected.
first one a 5, and I didn't really like it at all.
Yeah. Well, Davan,
I try to be generous.
If it's any consolation, I feel like most of the movies beyond this one will be less contentious because
I'll like them more than you will likely.
Well, probably. I mean, I like First Class
because I think some of these other ones do things about the X-Men quite a bit better than these Singer ones.
I like First Class.
To me, like these Singer movies are pretty good movies. I get that, but they just don't.
Well, Days of the Future Past and Apocalypse are Singer movies too.
Yeah, I don't know. They're the movies that come after these are just like they just add Mystique to the formula. It's Professor X, Magneto, Wolverine, and Mystique.
Well, except for First Class, because they're like we don't have Wolverine, but
yeah, Mystique is the Wolverine in that movie, basically.
Yeah,
that's fair.
Yeah,
and then she has a whole past. Well, I mean, they're their own movies. You can't. I know Days of Future Past tried to,
and now Mystique is Professor Xavier's sister because they have to be related, or the audience won't be able to comprehend it.
No, it's just a way to build it. It's the way to build in a history without spending an hour explaining why they have a history.
She was his pet monster.
Yeah. She chose his house to break into for some odd reason. I'm not going to defend that movie too much, although I did like First Class, but it does have its issues.
It's a generous 7.
That's very generous of you.
That's incredibly generous. I would have expected a 4 based on our conversation today.
You're a kind man. You've got a warm heart.
You are.
I'm right because I'm a mutant with fire.
You're pyro. You and all the other mutants with powers would be pyros. You and the 10,000 other pyros.
Our X point. Let's just fire through these quick because we are getting along in the tooth here. Let's just all say our likes, and then we'll all go say our dislikes. But
we have 3 each, or 3 or 2, or how are we doing this?
I have 5.
Okay.
Didn't write them down.
All right.
Well,
we'll go first, Dave, and give you time.
I went with the opening scene. It was fine. Magneto.
Remember how you talked about Murphy sounding bored, Davan, when he does this? This is what you sound like. Like, it was fine.
Well, look, I'm talking about my likes in this movie.
All right, go ahead.
Yeah.
You gave it a 7. I mean, you should have a lot of likes.
That's generous. I feel like I should go back and change it to a 6, to be honest with you.
It's fair. You know,
I think you should too, because
I would accept that.
Sound like a 7.
I would accept that.
Yeah. I'm going back.
7.
I think André and I peer pressured you.
Yeah, I kind of think we did too.
Yeah, maybe. Well, I was trying to put myself in the perspective of young me who did like this movie, but like
young me loved this movie. My young me probably watched this movie 100 times. No, maybe not that much.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
X-Men 1 was the first movie I ever saw in the theater more than once.
Yeah, I think it probably would have been for me too.
What? Yeah, I'm with that. Oh my god, it's writing the stuff down that I say.
What is?
My phone. So the opening scene, the Mags, you should have killed me when you had the chance. I like that because it's not the usual villain delivery of that line, which is because I'm going to kill you all. He's saying that because I just killed all your kids, basically. Charles. Sorry.
Yeah, it's basically a sorry.
So it's like a regretful one, not a threatening one. It's just a different delivery of that line, which I liked. Colossus looks cool. I like that. The Mag's escape, Magneto's escape, is one of the great scenes. And Stryker. I don't like that final twist at the end as much, but
what twist? The twist is the son?
Well, not twist. Yeah, it's his son. I just didn't need it. I liked him more as just this kind of just kind of military fanatic kind of guy.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of an example in a movie where you can find that where it's not that, where it doesn't make, there's some military dude you don't. I can't think of anything. I was thinking of the
at the end, but
I was thinking of the apes because the whole human race got destroyed. So by the time you got to the third one, the military guy has a lot of baggage that's unrelated to an ape hurting him directly. But yeah, anyway, sorry. Continue.
So what are your likes, André?
Well, I love Brian Cox I really think he's a fantastic villain in this movie. His line delivery is very Shakespearean, much like in his own. He's a great actor. He's fantastic. I like the stuff with his son. I like the coldness of his character. I like the teasing of the Wolverine stuff. All that stuff with him I thought was really good. I really, really, and even his line at the end with Wolverine, I always thought that you're always an animal. I just gave you claws. It's such a great line. And he delivers it so well too. And even when Wolverine's like digging him with the claws, he sounds kind of pathetic the way he's screaming. It's not even like a manly scream. He's like, ah, like, yeah, it's like which shows that he's not like his bravado is strong when he's got brainwashed mutants beside him, but when he's literally at the mercy of one, it all falls away, and he's begging Wolverine essentially to let him go and to give him all his answers and join him, and they'll be friends. But he still can't help himself because he calls Wolverine an animal, which Wolverine picks up on, and it's what kind of hinges back against him.
I think I like the line of his better about like, I recognize my work. I love that line. Yeah,
that was really good too. That I like Nightcrawler's design. I did, like the costume. I get you didn't like it, but I thought like the scars on his face is like they have two blue people in the movie. They have to differentiate them somehow, and this is the way they chose to do it. I know Cumming was chosen.
One's a woman and one's a man. That differentiates them.
Well,
already.
I'm not saying I couldn't follow it if there were two blue people that weren't a man and a woman, but
like that's what I mean. Like I don't understand who these supposed audience people are who are that dumb, and are there that many of them spending money?
No, I agree with you. Studios often,
but in the comics, that comes up the very first time that Mystique and Nightcrawler meet. Nightcrawler's like, "Why do you look so much like me?" And she's like, "Ask your mom." And then like the seed is planted there, and then it turns out that his mom's not his mom. He was adopted, founded of whatever, and like that's all. That's X-Men, man. That's like
Claremont had a plan there. Claremont had a plan. Miss Destiny was always going to be Nightcrawler.
No.
Apparently,
he said that 20 years ago in an interview, like 25 years ago.
That was one of the things they batted around, but that wasn't the original idea.
So apparently Nightcrawler was the plan to be, or Alan Cumming was the plan from Singer all along to be Nightcrawler. There was a rumor that Ethan Embry, who was a big actor in the 90s, was up for the role as well. But Cumming ended up getting it. He actually he is fluent in German, which is part of the reason why he was chosen. Oh. And the design for Nightcrawler's makeup was done by Adam Kubert. So, that's, yeah. So there's that. I thought that was pretty cool in the way that he had done that as well.
Wow. I got with Ethan Embry.
Why, just because of his look?
Yeah.
Well, you just wiki him like I did?
Well,
I recognize him from Empire Records. I didn't know
his name. Yeah.
Yeah, Empire Records and Can't Hardly Wait. He's in The Walking Dead, wasn't he?
Yep.
He's a cool actor, actually. He's a pretty good actor.
I like his smile. He's got a curt smile. Yeah.
Oh, they really should have went with Ethan Embry. Oh my God, he looks just like Mike.
Well, as much as you can, it's not under all the blue makeup and whatever. One thing I thought was fun is the little Easter eggs. I tease quite a few in here. You see Beast on the TV talking in his non-Beast form. You also, I don't know if you guys noticed, but when Mystique was hacking in to find out where Magneto was being held, there are a bunch of names there that were other famous mutants. Remy LeBeau was one of them. So I thought that was a nice little nod to
Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch, Piotr and Wanda.
Played by Steve Backett from Andromeda.
Oh wow!
there's also references to like Franklin Richards is there. Franklin Richards, Project Wide Awake. Like there's a bunch of like Easter eggs there.
Yeah, that was cool. It would have been interesting. Yeah, I guess we did get Fantastic Four movies at this time too, or a little later on. So, but yeah, I like Magneto. I know, as Dave said, there are two Magnetos, and they really do flip him between being somewhat of a sympathetic character and then somewhat of a maniacal lunatic, and like it lands somewhere in between. But aspects of his performance I really enjoyed, like when he breaks out of the prison, when he's talking to John, and you get John seeing the other side of the coin, that like Xavier's way is this way that he doesn't necessarily agree with, but now he's seeing what else on the other side of the mountain. And that's Magneto. When Magneto, I think I forgot to explain that when we did the whole Reddit, but when Magneto was leaving, John joins him and goes off to become a Brotherhood of Mutants member. I like Sean Ashmore. He's a Canadian kid, good Canadian kid. Handsome guy. Every time I think of him, I think of Animorphs because he was on that show. But I dug his performance in the movie. I know he didn't have a ton to do, but the ice stuff was fun. You don't actually see him fully ice up until the very end of X-Men 3, sadly. But it was cool to see him, in action doing that sort of thing. And I thought the whole siege of Xavier School when they're attacking and all the kids, various powers are coming into play, dealing with them. to an extent. Although I thought it was kind of funny because the end of the first movie literally tells you this is going to happen. Like Magneto says, "What will you do, Charles, when they come to your school?" And he says, "I have a great swell of pity for anybody that would come to that school looking for a fight." They did right away.
Unless we're all leaving the kids with a babysitter. Unless we're all out for the evening.
They did right away, and they did pretty good. I mean, they got them out of the house. Oh, it's funny because like the government would have the house, right? Like they took the house, they took what they needed from the Cerebro, they did whatever. They didn't just like abandon it and walk away. Like
you see it on the news that it's surrounded by like some kind of like military presence or something.
Yeah.
When they're at Bobby's house, you see an aerial shot of the mansion.
Right. Yeah.
So who knows that?
I liked all those things. Honestly, I like the script. I think it's a good story. As far as adaptations go of God Loves Man Kills with Stryker's stuff and the way it all manned out, it's pretty good. It's not.
I mean, it's kind of loosely an adaptation of God.
I mean, there are quite like I said when we did that episode on this, that like there are quite a few plot points that I didn't realize how much X-Men 2 took from it. Quite a bit.
From what? The animated series?
No, from the God Loves Man Kills story.
Oh, yes.
We did it on the show 2 weeks ago or last week? 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago, because we did the
game last.
Yeah, we did the game one last week. So we just read the book and then talked about it. And there are quite a few things in it that like Stryker's whole deal with like having Magneto use or Charles use Cerebro it actually works out better in this movie with having Magneto be coerced into giving that information out than just having them run into a random contractor that helped them build the mansion 1 million years ago that they got the information from. So I don't know. I thought it worked really well. I really liked it. I'm pretty sure I gave you 5 points.
All right. What are your likes there, Dave?
Okay, I've only got 3 likes and 3 dislikes.
That's good enough. That's good.
The first one is just everything in the school. The whole idea that they have like a whole bunch of like mutant kids who are actually going there and like learning math and shit is basically from these movies. We only ever saw the Gen X kids and the New Mutants learning to use their powers, and they were always like in superhero uniforms. Like I love that whole aspect of it. I love the whole fight scene. I love the invasion. I love the visual of these like ghoulish military guys going through this school for like these awful prejudicial reasons. That's one. 2 is the coming out scene to Iceman to his parents.
I didn't really talk about that too much. It's pretty good.
It's revolutionary basically for the time, because like up to that point, the metaphor was always treated as like this is about race. And this like elevates it to like, well, really, it's actually a better metaphor for like being gay, since anybody could, be born that way. But ultimately, it's such a useful metaphor because it can be about anything, because there's always going to be some kind of out group. And the X-Men are just a good way to get you to relate to them, even if you're perfectly on the in group.
When the mother says, "Have you tried not being a mutant?" I mean, that's obviously like, have you tried not being gay? Like.
And finally, the structure and the post 9/11 world that it came out in that includes the Once and Future book being read by Magneto and called back. What kind of leaders do we want? What kind of leaders do we want to be? The movie opens with the tour of the White House, where a tour guide is talking about a speech that Lincoln gave about unity, about not putting brother against brother. We should all stand together under one house. And it ends, and Lincoln wrote his own speeches. It ends with a kind of a Bush analog, reading his speech that he's going to say to America for the first time and parsing it words like, do we like that word annihilated? And then Professor X leaves him in a place where he's like, okay, you've got to speak your own words now. And you were about to say that there's an enemy within that we need to persecute, that anybody wearing the wrong thing could be a terrorist. But here's the proof that, like that there's people on both sides trying to push for a war. So what are you going to do? That's left open-handed. I fucking love it. That's it. Those are my things. That's why I think it's a good movie. I also have some bad ones.
Oh, yes. But what
goes next? Let's hear your dislikes.
Dislikes.
I didn't do dislikes.
Cyclops and Storm. I would just like to see them do something. I think Storm is horribly miscast. I don't think she ever acts like Storm. It bothers me to my core when she gets scared flying the plane, she's like, oh, Jean, the second bomb is getting close. Like, I've never seen Storm act like that, except when she's claustrophobic.
One thing I'd like to point out, just the fun note I came across when looking up stuff about this movie, is Halle Berry dropped out of playing Jennifer Lopez's role in the movie Geely to be in this movie. So
Bullet dodged.
Yeah, so I'd say she dodged a bullet.
I can't picture Halle Berry saying turkey time.
I don't think I've ever seen that movie, so.
Oh, it's like a famous scene, turkey time. And he's like, what? Gobble, gobble. No, you never seen that.
Nothing about that movie is famous.
Oh my God. Go to your browser right now and type in turkey time and see what comes up. Number 2 is just a lame one. Wolverine's hair in the beginning and the end of the film is like this high. I guess they were like, let's push it. Let's be a little more comic booky. You should have pushed it this way.
Maybe it does kind of seem like they filmed that part later. Like maybe it was a reshoot or something else they did, because like it seems like he looks significantly different. He's way more clean cut. You know, like the way he looked in the rest of the movie.
They might have just tagged it right on.
Oh, it could be leftover footage from the first movie because his hair was much higher in that.
I thought of another one, negative that I didn't put on this list, but we mentioned already. The 2 Magnetos. Been dying to talk about it. It's real bad. Sometimes Magneto is a super serious, understandable, flawed villain. Sometimes he says the most cool, badass things. The like, "What's your real name?" and da 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 da. You're a god among ants. And then sometimes he's this snickering weirdo, and he and Mystique come across as like beastly and shrieky from the Care Bears
when they're laughing at Rogue.
Yeah, when they're laughing at Rogue, and it's like, yeah that's a child who you assaulted.
That's what you've done with your hair. Who he was super apologetic to have done that to, according to the last.
Yeah, and now it's a big joke. And there's times when he's like running from explosions and his head is down on his shoulders like this, and it's, I don't know, it's bad. But half the time it's really good. And my other one, my big one, is I think, and I thought of this while Dav was talking about it. I think that I agree so much, actually, that this shouldn't have continued on beyond this. It's the same as the MCU and the blip. The Cerebro being weaponized that way.
Yeah.
Because what they don't get into is anybody who was driving a car would be dead. Anybody who was in an airplane would be dead. Anybody who was swimming would be dead.
Yeah.
Like, we're talking about minimum 500 million people gone. And it's just like, well, that didn't happen. And I think that's a huge mistake.
If it's everyone in a car, there's probably billions dead. Like,
yeah.
Well, not everyone.
Well, I've got people in traffic, but anybody in a moving vehicle is going to die.
Yeah,
100%. I definitely agree with that.
Yeah.
Anybody being operated on?
It was too big of a leap to go right to Xavier can kill everybody if he wants to in the second movie. It's just like they didn't need to go. It is a pretty
Even
big.
If they had like a cone of influence, like it was coming out, getting further and further and affecting more people, I could buy that. But the whole planet had a seizure. That's a lot of dead people.
And even if you had some kind of like, I'm sure some people would have had conditions, or brain histories of brain aneurysm or whatever. Like I'm sure, like MS, whatever. Like some
just
people,
from that, from that mental stress. Well, my dislikes are many, but I'll
they're myriad.
Try and pare it down.
My cup runneth over.
I've talked to most of them, but Mystique's friction powers, I mean, you explain them, so it doesn't bother me as much now, but I don't like the way she slides onto that door. It just looks dumb. I already talked about it. The inverse plot from the last movie, I just felt like I was watching the same movie again because we just had watched it, I guess. Storm, definitely, it's atrocious. It's a disrespect to everything that is beautiful in this world. Cyclops, again, I agree with that one. Cyclops is just such a disrespected character in these.
Especially in the next one.
It's like if they did the Avengers movie. Imagine if they made the Avengers movie and treated Captain America the way.
It's funny because when going back to these movies, I remember him being a way bigger part of them. In my memory,
he's not in the middle.
No, I know, but in my memory, I remember him being a way bigger part of 1 and 2, and then watching him again, I'm like, wow, he's really not.
And in the next one, they kill him in like the first 2 minutes
off screen.
So, but nobody but Wolverine ever gets a real superhero fight.
Nobody. Actually, one of my dislikes is the fight choreography. I found it awful. I didn't even find the Wolverine Deathstrike one was a bit better because it was quick and it was over with very fast. But the fight choreography is bad, and so is the action scenes in a lot of these is bad. And I didn't like the pyro and Iceman thing. It's like the fire and ice thing. So clever. It's actually like the easy way out. It's like the low hanging fruit. But anyway, that's my dislikes.
The Cyclops thing, like I said, this one I noticed it way worse than I did in the first one about how he's not being used. I do really love the character, and it's sad to not see him get his due. I don't remember how much of a due he gets in the First Class movies. I know he's not in them until Future Past. Is that right?
He doesn't get to do anything.
Yeah.
Nothing cool.
Yeah, Ty Sheridan plays him, right?
Sure.
Sure. Honestly, the goods in this outweigh the bads for me, but there are some things that are a little like every explosion with there's several big explosions where you see people get thrown and twist in the movie. At least two. I'm thinking it's more than that, but there's quite a few. When Pyro's blowing up the cop cars, it's very evident, but there's a bunch.
He just hits them with a little fireball too. They just like this is like
It
relatively.
goes under the car and it lights the gas tank. He sends it under the car and it lights the gas tank. Is what I guess is supposed to be happening.
I guess, but gas tanks don't explode like that. But anyway.
Yeah, no, they never do. But that's action movie. Like every movie. I was watching Reservation Dogs the other day, and they were showing a motorcycle accident. The motorcycle was on fire, and I'm like, like
great show. Great.
I love that show. I love that show. Have you seen it, Dave?
Yeah. One of the writers from it actually wrote the last.
Oh, right.
Yeah, She-Hulk thing I worked on.
I'm almost on season 2, and I really dig it. The guy that plays the spirit guide is one of the funniest people in the world. He is so
William
funny.
Knifeman.
Fuck, he's funny.
That's
He's so good.
Character's name, William Knifeman. He's so funny.
He's so funny. Hilarious. Cousin, brother,
Warrior.
friend, warrior, friend,
Brother,
cousin,
friend.
father. When he just yelling down the noises. Oh man.
He's so funny.
Yeah, I would have liked. I disliked that they didn't reuse Sabretooth or Toad. I would have liked to see them continue on. It just seems like a real miss.
Sabretooth again.
Well, maybe we would have got a better version of him.
Or that Toad.
Yeah, or that Toad. But I mean, I get that shoehorning them into the story, but the fact we never see them again, except for Liev Schreiber's Sabretooth. And apparently, according to rumors, his appearance, I don't know who will be playing him, but in the X-Men, the Deadpool movie coming up. But
it'll be Schreiber.
But the idea that they set up these characters and I would have liked to see more of them. I was sad not to see that. I agree that the president thing is interesting. I do find it gives an air of they're trying to be, but like you can come up to someone with a knife in your hand and corner them. If you walk up to someone with a knife in your hand in an alley and corner them against the wall and say, "Look, I'm not going to hurt you. I just want to tell you the great thing about this club I got going on." You're like, if you join this club, it'd be really great for you and your family. But this isn't a threat. I just want you to know that. Anyway, I'll see you at the club. And I just walk away. What do you think is going to happen?
Forget about the knife. Would you like to hear about our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ?
But even if I didn't have a knife, and I'm a bigger dude, if I walked up to a smaller person or a woman and cornered an alley and said the same thing to her, I mean, that's imposing enough, right? Like anything like that. Like that, the president was shown a drastic display of power, also being told that the Xavier could have killed all of the humans because of that.
I didn't like that scene at all, actually.
I liked it.
I just ended, and then it had like 4 more scenes that it.
I liked it. I just felt like it.
Yeah, Wolverine shouldn't have got the last word, but that's one of those. Like, the last word.
And just the nature of like the school itself, I find is something that like the fact they take them on field trips. It's just nice, but it's like how do they like? They're all kids who have powers, and the idea that like they're going to put them in public with regular folks and not expect anything to happen with them getting into any issues or using their powers. Kind of wild. Like
almost none of these kids look like anything other than a human child.
No, but one of them stuck out his tongue. One of them lit another one on fire.
That's one of those like budget things, like with the first Guardians movie, where half the aliens just look like human beings, which makes Star-Lord seem less special. 1 and 2, it's something the MCU has then had to run with. That there are just all these like Kryptonian type alien species that look exactly like humans. It's stupid.
Have slightly different eyes or something, like it's just something easy to.
It's funny because the X-Men comics have the opposite problem, where like unimportant mutants generally look like freaky wackadoo things, so that you can be like that person in the background's a mutant. But the main characters are all really good looking, and this like the more interesting mutants are main characters, and the background people are all just random children.
Well, that's true. Well,
also one side note.
go ahead.
I was going to say one side note is James Bamford, who's Canadian director, worked on Arrow a lot, was Hugh Jackman's stunt double, and apparently was asked by Singer to make a cameo role as Gambit because he did look like him in a scene that never made the final cut. So there is a Gambit scene out there that never got released.
Well, we were going to do some other segments, but we're really long in the tooth here tonight, so I'm just going to skip to one segment that I think we should talk about. Yeah, save that for next week.
But it's relevant to this.
We should talk. Really? All
Yeah.
right, I'll come back to you.
Glad y'all decided to join the party.
Well, we had uncle of the show, Lawrence Bain, come on the internets today and say he is confirmed that he is in fact a voicing on the show again on 97, which we did know, but he made it very clear he's not voicing the wild man of Borneo Cave. So speculation time. It's probably Strife, but
that would be cool,
especially with some of the episode titles too, like what is one of them is like the Mutant Liberation Begins or something like that. Here they are. Yeah, so you're just like Mutant Liberation Begins. That's a Strife thing. The Mutant Liberation Front. Tolerance is Extinction sounds like it could be a big Strife story. So yeah, I mean, the Strife is probably the obvious guess.
Do we have an official date of when this comes out?
No.
Spring.
Oh man, I want it now.
I want it now. Spring. They're saying early.
Well, early now.
Yeah, early has to be before the summer, doesn't it?
Yeah, it would be, yeah, for sure.
I feel like it's going to come out in like June, and they're going to call that early. But whatever, we'll see.
June is mostly still the spring.
Okay.
Davan, stop defending your corporate overlords.
Yeah. We got cooked on the MCU for a second. I'm an independent thinker.
That's true. You're allowed to be.
If Herbal is holding you captive, just blink twice. Don't say anything. Okay, good. He's making sure not to blink.
He's trying not to sneeze, and he blinks twice by accident. Oh shit!
Oh, we call the cops.
Yeah. Look, Disney has their friend Dave at night at gunpoint in his apartment.
It's like, no, really, we are serious.
Yeah.
Sir, are you sure? All right, so what do you want me to go back to there, Andre?
You told me to come up with some recommendations. Apparently,
do you guys have any speculations other than Strife on that Lawrence Bain news? Or you think that's probably what it is?
No, that would be pretty cool. It would make sense as to who Strife really is, so that would be pretty neat. It could be Captain America again. That'd be fun.
Could be.
Could be any random person in Strife's Mutant Liberation Front. Like this, I don't know. Could be anybody.
Outside.
Could be Zero.
No, that would be fun.
All right.
My only thing was my film recommendation was Bryan Singer.
Okay.
Bryan Singer selected Brian Cox for the role of Stryker because he's a big fan of his performance in this movie, Manhunter by Michael Mann. If you haven't seen it, it's the original adaptation of The Red Dragon, the book that came before The Silence of the Lambs. And in it, Brian Cox plays Hannibal Lecter. The sequel to this, which became Silence of the Lambs, in which they recast him as Anthony Hopkins' character. But seeing Cox play Hannibal Lecter is actually very interesting to see someone else do the role. Michael Mann directed it. It's infinitely better than The Red Dragon, but it's a fantastic.
The Dragon was not good.
It's infinitely better. If you like Michael Mann, I mean, all of his movies are pretty good. So it's really, really good. The guy from CSI plays Will Graham in it. The guy Peterson, I think his name is, and Tom Noonan plays the Tooth Fairy, which is great. But yeah, it's super good. Check it out.
Well, what do you say we get out of it?
Yeah, sure.
It's been a long review, but this one was heated.
Well, it's funny.
It was contentious. It was fun.
Like Davan was trying to figure out a way. Like we're talking about trying to shorten our synopsises, and if you took out us stopping to talk about everything, the synopsis would have been quite short. But that's the beauty of the format, because as you walk through it, you run into the things that you want to discuss, and it becomes a thing. So,
and you were able to yada yada the end pretty good. Like we were at like an hour and a half.
There's not a lot. Like there's not a lot. There's not a lot of nuance in it that needs explanation to explain anything else.
Except for you skipped to the best scene in the movie. You yada yada a little too hard. You're like, oh, you're right, the Magneto scene. Like,
oh no, that was I yaddy added that. I didn't yaddy added that. I just forgot about it until I got to the point where he showed up again. So,
yeah, fair enough. All right, well, let's get out of here. You can support the show at patreon.com/X-Men Review Show. Get yourself some sweet merch over there. Which, you can get merch with our sweet new logo on it, which I don't know if you've seen. Our sweet logo there with André as Beast and me as Wolverine. That's our dynamic right there, all captured in one image.
yeah, he's pretty
Except
cool.
I noticed Wolverine. I'm Bone Claws, which that's cool.
You don't have bone claws. I just, I must have been a jagged line. They're supposed to be adamantium claws.
Okay, fair enough then. I would have accepted the Bone Claws anyway. It would have been.
Well, you can have them if you want.
And Andre's always reciting long quotations and then going,
I do.
Yeah,
Shakespeare.
it's true.
Tennyson.
Fascinating.
No, it's the end of the whole thing.
Tennyson.
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 Even if it's not a Tennyson quote, we'll quote Shakespeare and then be like Tennyson. But anyway,
Tennyson.
follow us on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. Find our audio-only version wherever you get your podcasts, and please like, review, and subscribe. And you can find us at ufpodcast.com because we are a proud member of those United Federations of Podcasts. It has many great shows like Hold Up, a movie podcast, Super Mater Brothers. They review reality shows, and we also do the Mary Mater Marvel Society over there. Which we're gonna review What If this weekend. I think What If season 2.
Well, isn't
Well, I've
Echo
not
supposed
seen
to? Isn't Echo supposed to come out today too?
Yeah, it goes out tonight, today.
Right.
Yeah, but I don't think we'll have that watched by the weekend. I think Jaemeel wanted to do them both in one go, but I don't know.
No, you should probably I get it. Yeah, you should probably dedicate to it. I'm looking forward to that. It's gotten good reviews from what I understand. So.
It's only 5 episodes too, so it's going to be an easy, quick watch, I guess. Should be good. And what's going on over at?
Well, a new episode just dropped
the
Monday
Denton
with
Skelhorn Production Graphic Histories podcast.
Well, I even call you my producer in one of the later episodes in our
I noticed.
I
noticed.
I mean, you don't really produce it in a way that you're more of an organizer because I put everything together, but I do appreciate what you do.
Wait till we switch you over to the other platforms. Stuff.
You sound more professional if you have a producer.
That is true.
Exactly.
So episode just dropped yesterday with Alex Robinson, the creator of Box Office Poison. Bunch of other cool independent comics. One I actually got my own. Davan didn't help with. He does the Star Wars Minute podcast, which is really huge. And have you read that comic, Box Office Poison, Dave?
No, but it was like one of those like indie darlings of Wizard growing up.
Yeah, we talk about it in the episode because that's how I discovered it, by reading Wizard magazine.
It was always out of my grasp growing up in Newfoundland, and then I just never got around to picking it up.
You would love it. I think you should check it out. It's kind of got the Clerks sort of mentality, but but more about writers and artistic types. It's very good. I had to shuffle up my schedule a little bit because one of the guests wanted to have his episode come out before one of the products first Kickstarter comes out. So I believe the next episode is Michael T. Gilbert, who created Mr. Monster, Doc Stern, and those fun comics. And then after that one is
Woodhill.
Pardon? Woodhill. Yeah. Woodhill. And then after that is Paris Elaine, who I know Dave knows. And after him is Craig Miller, who is a writer for a bunch of animated series and was a marketing consultant for a ton of cult classic movies. He did The Thing, he did Star Wars, The Empire Strikes Back, he did The Hitcher, he did Return to Oz, he did The Black Cauldron, a lot of cool stuff.
Long and varied career.
Yeah, he's very, very cool guy. And talking about marketing specifically, The Wicker Man he marketed for the American audiences. He hung out with Christopher Lee a bunch. He had a bunch of stories about that. He's friends with Joe Dante and Mick Garris and a bunch of other cool people. It's neat. So he's a really cool guy. Great interview. And I have a big slew of people leading into, I think, the end of February now for interviews. So thanks to Davan, my producer. We like to yell at each other in this podcast. We get along fairly well in real life.
Yeah, fairly well. And of course, we got a Live Long podcast with our many Star Trek channels. We just did a conversation about astrophysics with Dr. Aaron McDonald, astrophysicist and Star Trek science consultant. That was yesterday. That was a lot of fun. And, we have lots of other things going on over there. And there's also trivial debates Aimed on Track and the Hellbound podcast. Now it's Blackburn and Michael Chan. And that is everybody here on our fine federation. Dave, is there anything you want to hype?
Yeah, what do you got coming out, Dave?
People to go out and buy?
Just pick up Century number 2 and Century number 3 and maybe 4. I don't know yet, but when those come out,
Oh, awesome.
those up. Yeah.
Isn't there like 1 million centuries in those books? Like a whole bunch of
Yes.
centuries.
There's like
Yeah.
6, something like that.
Well, 6, that's a lot of centuries. It's not quite 1 million, but when you're talking centuries, that's a lot.
That's with writer Jason Lowe, and I actually forget the main artist's name. I'm just like the side guy who's making the deadlines, basically. What's the name?
Did you see Stephen Yeun has dropped out as playing the Sentry in the Thunderbolts
Yeah.
movie?
Supposing that he
never
actually
picked
was the
that
Sentry. Who
anyway.
knows? But
Yeah. I know.
Yeah,
I
fair
can
enough.
see
It could have
that
gone
happening,
somewhere
yeah.
else. Well, now Henry Cavill can play it, and that would just blow everybody's mind.
No, he should be Captain Britain, but whatever.
Actually, he would be good Captain Britain. I would like that.
Yeah.
I don't think Henry Cavill wants to be another stoic, humorless Superman. Like he wants to be a real guy,
Yeah.
a real boy.
Yeah.
What do you mean? I gave up on The
Fair
Witcher halfway through season 2. I didn't even finish it, and I couldn't watch any more of it.
Yeah,
Just-
that's as far as I got.
And like he was fine, I
Yeah.
guess, but it's not for me.
Oh, he could have been a good Superman. With
Yeah.
different material, he could have done it.
I agree, but
It's me and him. We're the guys who prefer the Joss Whedon cut of Justice League, and a lot of it to me comes down to Joss Whedon knows how to write a Superman. He also
Yeah.
knows how to abuse everyone in his presence. But
Who's how to write X-Men too?
yeah, unfortunately, he's kind of a monster in his own right.
Well, and with that in mind, catch you X time.
Next time. Sing the movie one, Dave. Sing the movie. Da-la-la, da-la-la,
That's all.
da-la-la.
You should know it so well. We all used it so much with our action figures.